Break ends in 5 seconds.
She was the Heisman Trophy winner in 1986. He left her off the ballot. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Why do we insist on changing the things we love in sports just for the almighty dollar? Hey, welcome to the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Perloff, today is one of the great days that we have in sports. It's the first day in earnest of the NCAA tournament. The games are going to kick off at noon Eastern time, and it starts a 4-day frenzy of college hoops. Right. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Why do the college basketball coach Tom Izzo or the athletic directors like Greg Sankey of the SEC, why do they want to come in and meddle and tinker with something that we already love?
Wait, was that a serious question? Why are they making a change for the almighty dollar? What? Of course, that's all they do. This is college sports. What do you think it's about? Academics, Maggie?
No.
Of course it's about money, so you have to follow the money. Do you know, they've always expanded. They went from 32 to 64 to 68. And now they're talking about 80 or 90 or whatever it's going to be.
100.
That's how college.
100.
That's how college sports works. Of course, they're expanding. Now, it's interesting to me that they are worried about this parity issue and that all the schools that people want to watch are getting knocked out. Because look, we have NIL, we have G League, and we have Europe, and all of a sudden the blue bloods are not there anymore. Right. It strikes me as very interesting about this sport. We see it in college football too. I mean, there's parity. Washington was in the national title game. That never happened 8 years ago. Now NIL is flattening that sport out. Imagine college basketball. I think they're terrified that they're going to have basically a team like St. Peter's in the Final Four playing, I don't know, Florida Atlantic, and people are paying to see Duke and Kentucky.
Okay. First of all, Duke and Kentucky still are blue bloods. They still can be these really dominant teams, and NIL might actually bring some of these players back from the G League and Europe back to college in the traditional American college system. But here's what bothers me about a couple things. So expanding to 100 teams, okay, you want to talk about that? Let's put that on the back burner for a second. Another thing that Tom Izzo and some of the other college basketball coaches want to do is get rid of the automatic qualifiers for mid-major conferences. Right. They don't want the bid thieves. Right. They don't want a team that finished with 15 wins or 16 wins who gets hot for their conference tournament to win the conference tournament, get an automatic qualifier, but then you still need to put in, a team from that conference who had 23 wins, and that takes away from a St. John's or a Seton Hall or an Oklahoma or whatever, and stealing these bids from the more bigger traditional conferences. If you want to get rid of those automatic qualifiers for the mid-majors, you don't understand the essence of the tournament. And it's hard for me because Tom Izzo claims to be a quote-unquote small school guy because he started in Division II. Well, you've been at Michigan State now for 25 years, give or take. Now you are a big school guy, and you've been a March guy. And I don't think that these coaches have a clear understanding of what the public actually wants. The public actually loves this tournament because of the underdogs and because of the Cinderellas. And that's what makes this unique. If we just wanted to see the ACC play the Big Ten, then the ACC Big Ten Challenge that happens in November would be one of the highest rated sporting events that we have. But it's not. The tournament is one of the highest rated sporting events that we have. And they don't understand. We want to see underdogs and upsets. That's what this tournament is about.
What you say sounds logical, and of course nobody's watching the ACC Big Ten Challenge. But the reality is, look at last year. I mean, you're telling me that people wanted to see that group, UConn, blue blood, arguably, then San Diego State, Florida Atlantic, and Miami of Florida? No. That is not what people want to see. Maybe it was an anomaly. People do not want to see non-premier programs in the Final Four. That's just not...
When you and I started this show and we went to the Final Four in New Orleans the first year, it was North Carolina, Duke, Kansas. We had all the big teams. This is where everyone's freaking out about this when we don't even know if it's a trend.
It is a trend. There's absolutely... Basically, we've had... okay, we've had 2 number 1 seeds lose in the last 6 years, right? Purdue and Virginia. We've had a number 2 seed lose 3 years in a row. This is going in one direction, and that's full on parity. And I think that's super fun in the early rounds, but it's not fun late in the tournament, and that's the direction this is headed.
Okay, but here's the thing. That's what makes it's the setup.
Yeah, the early rounds are super fun like that, but where the big ratings come later in the tournament, they're not going to deliver. They're going to have whatever. I mean, last year's Final Four was way down in the ratings. That's going to be the direction. And this is the cash cow for the NCAA. They can't afford to mess around with this. Yes, the Cinderellas are great, but when the Cinderellas are no longer Cinderellas and they're basically just like everyone else, then you lose something.
If you don't understand that the upsets are what change it from any other sporting event we have to the most exciting and the non-traditional part of this, then you have no clue what the public actually wants. To say that the ratings of the Final Four are down, first of all, that goes in waves.
Really.
Listen, if you had Duke in the Final Four, do you really think that it's down? If you have North Carolina, it's not down.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, college basketball is not the sport it was when.
And these changes won't make that any better.
Well, it's going to make, if they don't do this change is not totally going to dictate. There's still going to be upsets, even if they do expand the tournament and knock out these automatic qualifiers. You're still going to have a ton of upsets, so it'll still be the magic of it. But they do have a genuine problem. I don't think that you can have mid-majors in the Final Four. And Duke is not, I'm not sure Duke's getting back there. I'm not sure Kentucky's a 3 seed, Duke's a 4 seed. When was that? I mean, it was never like that 15 years ago. North Carolina's a 1 seed that not a single person I know has penciled into the Final Four. You really can't trust the Blue Bloods anymore. I think this is more than a blip. I think this is a trend. I'm looking at everyone filling out their brackets out. Nobody's confident in these 1 seeds. Purdue, do you really feel good putting Purdue into your final after what they've done in tournament history? So I do think that there's a genuine trend in this sport where it's just full parity. And I do not think that's good for ratings, and I think they're worried about it.
But here's the thing. The tournament's bigger than ever in terms of the money that they're getting from the networks. So you can say that the ratings are down on the Final Four because Florida Atlantic was playing San Diego State, University of Miami, and UConn. But so again, that's 1 year that we've had that kind of craziness where you have 8 and 9 seeds in the Final Four. So, but the revenue is just as big, if not bigger. This is all just about the major conferences who take their cues from football, by the way. This is all about them just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they want to justify, hey, we are the bigger conferences. We deserve to get more teams in. And my response to that would be, if we cared so much about your conferences from top to bottom, your conference tournaments would be the highest rated thing that we watch. But instead, it's when you get the underdogs in and when you get those out of nowhere Cinderella schools, that's where you get the country's attention. The conference tournaments are fun and good, but that's not the must-see TV. The must-see TV is a 15 seed going up against a 2.
Well, I think that's because the stakes in the conference tournament are not that big.
No, they are now. That's why everyone wants to get rid of the automatic qualifier.
Well, generally, though, I think most of the good teams are going to get, even if they lose, obviously my Tennessee Volunteers got killed in the conference tournament.
They got a 2 seed.
Yeah, it didn't affect anything.
See, exactly.
Right.
The good
conference
teams still get in.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. You're going to still have a lot of upsets. But I disagree about this. Yes, 2 years ago you had that Duke, North Carolina, Kansas Final Four.
Yeah.
But look at the finals. You get Baylor against Gonzaga. That's not blue blood and blue blood. In 2019, you had Virginia against Texas Tech. I grew up watching Duke play Michigan. This is definitely a different sport. And
listen, then take it up with Duke and Michigan.
Well, it's just too hard because of one and done, NIL, G League, Europe. There's so many reasons. You're just not going to have this power structure where the really popular teams get to the top. I don't think that's ever coming back.
Oh, I wouldn't count that out. I mean, Adam Silver is already saying he's reconsidering the entire G League because NIL, and if you make the college players employees and start paying them in-house, I think you are going to see a return to the more traditional powerhouses. But again, I want to keep the Cinderellas there. I want to
Well, they'll be there. They'll be there. Even
not if they all have to play each other in some early tournament for the right to get into a 64-team bracket, which is what they're talking about.
But guess what's going to happen? You're going to have, if they all play each other, they're going to be tournament tested. They're going to get a lot of momentum. The 10-7, every year we've had one of these playing games. Somebody advances from the 10-7 game, usually the Sweet 16. Maybe that helps those small teams, and then they get some momentum going, and you separate the good teams from the bad teams. Upsets aren't going anywhere.
So here's the thing. We're talking about changes that could be coming to the NCAA tournament. As the tournament's kicking off in earnest today, by the way, we're going to have plenty of experts on to help you fill out brackets last minute. Don't worry, we got you covered head to toe. But here's the other thing about it. I just don't understand why this is not like the will of the people. When it was college football and you had the BCS system, it was broken. Nobody thought that that was the best way to crown a college football champion, or people had issues with how the BCS determined who was the college football champion. Okay, then they go to the college football playoff. You go to 4. 4 is better, but obviously because 4 is so popular, then you're going to go to 12 or 14, and we're going to be going on and on and up and up and up. Because there was actually a need, I think, by the public to say, hey, we need a better system to determine who is going to be the national champion. Who is complaining about the men's basketball, women's basketball tournaments not crowning a proper champ? We already know that with the one and done situation, it creates this incredible drama. And yeah, the one seeds might get knocked out. But I don't think anyone was complaining that the national champion was fraudulent, fugazi, that it didn't actually, reflect what was going on in college basketball. We saw that champion and we acknowledge that was the proper champion for that year. Nothing was broken about this.
Right, but is anyone even going to notice or care if they go to 100? And by the way, the BCS was a huge improvement of what was there before the BCS.
Sure. But again, people
go to
hated
100.
the BCS.
What's the difference? So all this is true. The tournament's still going to have all its charm. If you expand to 100, it is silly. I understand, but it's not going to affect. I mean, maybe it makes a bracket harder to print. I don't know what's the downside. Is it going to affect fandom in any major way? No, of course not.
Okay, so we had Jordan Cornette, who came on the show 2 days ago, and he was awesome. And he's calling games in Pittsburgh today. Definitely listened to him on Westwood One. He played at Notre Dame. He was dope. And what is the thing he said? We asked about the NIT and why St. John's and some other schools that didn't want to go to the NIT. And he said, it's a loser's tournament. And the villagers rejoiced. You guys loved it. Pete loved it. Said this is the best guest we've ever had on the show. No one wants to hear about the NIT. Essentially, you're just combining the NIT and the NCAA tournament. So if you thought all those people were in the losers bracket, now you've just expanded the NCAA tournament, the proper one, to include what you guys deemed the losers.
I totally disagree with that. You're telling me this, say, team 68 through 100 will be in an NIT-like tournament? Not at all, because they're still alive in the tournament. So those games don't really matter.
It's watered it down. You guys, who do you think the next?
Honestly, I don't even think
the next 64.
Really, I don't even think we're going to notice this change, because when they went from 64 to 68, I was like, that's weird. And they play this play-in tournament that people barely watch. Who cares? It doesn't affect the tournament at all. Did that? Maybe it's such a small expansion. Did that weaken the tournament? No, of course not.
You don't. Okay, so you don't watch it.
No, I don't. Well, I watched a little last night because I want to see this pro prospect out of Colorado. Oof. But generally, no, I'm not. I watched a little bit of the 16-16 last night. It's not. It's like I know that I have so much basketball coming on Thursday and Friday. I can't spend the energy on Tuesday.
Okay, how do you think they're going to set this tournament up?
Well, yeah, but so
you're going to be watching now on Tuesday and Wednesday. It's just going to be expanded the first 2 days.
Right, but so what? So I'm still going to be fired up come Thursday. It's not going to affect. I'm not. You're saying they go
half
from
the tournament would have been over by the time you get to Thursday.
So you're telling me you are less interested in the NCAA tournament if they expanded it?
No, I'm just saying you guys thought the NIT was a losers bracket, right?
Because it doesn't go anywhere. This expanding NCAA tournament, you're still in the tournament. It's still a big deal.
But you don't think that the quality of teams in the NIT also makes it the losers bracket as well? Like the fact that nobody thinks those teams are that good?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, the NIT
it waters down the field, doesn't it?
Yeah, it waters down the field, but I don't care. What's the difference? We're going to get to the round of 32 and Sweet 16 eventually. The NIT, if you told me the winner of the NIT got to go into the NCAA tournament, then all of a sudden I'm watching the NIT tournament. That'd be really cool. That could maybe get Pete even back on board. I don't know if there'd be time to do it.
There's no shot. Pete is out on the NIT forever and always.
Chance.
But the reason the NIT is a loser's bracket because it doesn't go anywhere. Like, what are you going to, if you win the NIT, nobody cares.
I think the reason why you don't watch these first 4 games is not necessarily just because you have more basketball coming. I think it's because there's an expectation that Colorado or Boise State, and maybe it's a poor expectation because we've seen these teams go to the Final Four and go deep, but there's an expectation that those teams really aren't that good and they probably aren't going to be around long anyway.
Right.
Like if they put North Carolina and Duke in the first 4, you're watching.
Right, but I won't watch. You're right. The 68 through 100 teams, I probably won't watch a ton of that, but it's not going to water down my experience for the whole tournament. I mean, come Sweet 16, I'm going to be glued to the TV. We all are.
Right, but again, so who's it for? It's not for you. Who's it for? That's why
it's to get some of these big programs back into the school and maybe knock out some of these little guys so they don't go all the way. I mean, it's
I've
a
never heard
shortcut.
someone root for Goliath. I really haven't.
They're not rooting for Goliath necessarily.
No,
yeah, I guess they are.
You are.
Well, I understand how this sport works. Like, first of all, they're losing appeal to college football. College football has become so big. The balance is crazy shifted towards football. So I do think they can't have this parity. It's stupid. I'm being a realist here. I am looking at the bottom line, and if I'm NCAA, I need this money. They desperately need college basketball to be a thing.
They're making money, hand over fist. It's going up and up and up. The money is not the problem. They're getting every dollar.
Eventually, if their ratings go down every year, which has kind of been the trend, eventually they're not going to get all this money. I mean, they're making a lot of money because live sports are the most valuable thing on TV. That's all TV is now.
Right.
But generally, you don't think this is a problem?
Ratings going down.
This trend is bad.
The ratings going down on college hoops is something that doesn't have just one father. Like there's not one reason why that's happening. It's a multitude of reasons, which starts with, I mean, one and done's, although I still think we were watching, even one and done's now been around for a while. You're talking about watered down, guys going to the G League, stuff like that. Guys not sticking around. We don't have the stars in college hoops like we did. And I mean, that's something that I don't think expanding a tournament or taking away automatic qualifiers, that's not going to bring people back.
No, it won't, but it won't hurt it. I mean, there's no way expanding the tournament. There's no way the ratings go down even further because of this. I mean, maybe those early rounds won't get big ratings, but I think they're thinking, well, maybe we'll get Michigan State, or maybe we'll get a NC State, or at least a bigger school to get on deeper because you knock out some of these small schools. I don't know. It seems harmless to me. I'm not bothered by this. I've seen people say, like, oh my God, expand the tournament and the sky's going to fall. They've expanded the tournament before and everything's been just fine. So, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, the Final Four is going to be awesome. The Elite
Not
Eight,
according to you if Florida Atlantic happens to make it in.
Okay. Yeah, I'm being realistic. Were you excited about last year's Final Four field? When you saw that, were you like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for these Cinderellas?
I watched it just like I watch it every single year because I'm going to watch the Final Four. Was I excited about it? Sure. Why not? I was excited about UConn.
I don't even remember which teams played. I'll be honest. It was Florida
It was San Diego State and UConn in the final.
Yeah, I know. Who played who in the four? I don't even
Florida
remember.
Atlantic played San Diego State.
San Diego State.
Oh,
UConn played Miami.
I think, which was also part of some of the issue for people because you would have wanted to see probably the two power programs against the two smaller programs.
I was actually at that game, and I didn't even remember that. I was there.
That's a you problem, Perloff. That's a you problem.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not the public.
Last year was a weird year. I mean, the lack of star power is a big deal. We were talking to our boss earlier. He said that ask the casual fan to name two men's college basketball players, they might be stuck. The casual fan. The women have surpassed him in that
fine.
realm.
Okay, and I would come back to our boss and ask him how many brackets he's filled in. And I bet the answer is one at least. Right. And that's the cool thing about the tournament is, and the barrier to entry and to have fun in this tournament as either a diehard fan or a casual fan is so low. Because Mary in accounting, who's never watched a game, can win your pool, it becomes accessible to everybody. And I don't understand why we want to take that charm where there's no charm left in college sports whatsoever because it's all become one big money grab. Why would you want to take that charm away?
Well, how are you taking that charm away?
Because you're not having those smaller schools, the underdogs, the Cinderellas.
Well, I mean, there will be some, though. I mean, it's going to if they knock out some early.
I know, but you don't want them. You don't want St. Peter's.
I want St. Peter's. I do want them.
FDU.
They're still going to be around. The expanding to 100 is not going to kill all these teams. And honestly, it'll probably work against the NCAA. I'm telling you, they're going to gain some momentum, and they're going to play in these early rounds to knock each other out and kill it in the next round. Because college basketball can't help itself. These underdogs are here, and they're going far. Look at this year's bracket. I mean, all the trends, all the stats, all the numbers say, do not trust the higher seeds. These smaller schools are going to kill it this year.
I know. And don't you think that's why people want to tune in? If we knew what was going to happen and we knew all four number one seeds were going to advance, it's not as fun.
You know, as a fact, it's fun early, but by the end, college basketball, the powers that be want the blue bloods.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. All right, that's one thing that's got us fired up today. And by the way, we've got games. We've got the first day of the tournament. This is a holiday for people like us, so we're so excited that it's finally here in earnest. We've got a lot more for you. Caleb Williams Pro Day yesterday. We've got updates from that. We also have one of the wildest sports stories I've seen in a while. It is potentially illegal behavior. It is a superstar face of the sport that is wrapped up in this. It is a crazy scandal, and we will give you the details of it next. Maggie and Perloff on this very busy Thursday. Do not move. CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This portion of the show is sponsored by the new Hyundai Tucson, available with complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Now it's easy to use your phone to control your Tucson. We are watching live Major League Baseball, and the big free agent signing Yamamoto is getting shelled for the Dodgers. Although, Maggie, I got to tell you, there is nothing cleaner than a white Dodgers uniform popping here. Unfortunately, they're getting shelled by the Padres. Am I allowed to do the score here? Yeah, Padres go up 5-0 in the first inning.
Top of the first 2 outs, and it's 5-0 San Diego. This is not the type of debut you wanted.
The Mets fans in the building celebrating because it looks like maybe they dodged a bullet with this guy, although EJ claims it's still spring training, so it doesn't count.
No, we're not. Yes, we are.
So this is what's crazy about this is maybe you could forgive Yoshinobu Yamamoto if he was a little distracted because of what's going on around the Dodgers right now, which is a massive potential scandal that's unfolding right before our eyes. Now, I can give you a little of the TikTok of this because the story is still coming out, and in fact, the story is still changing. So let me give you the up to the minute of what we have. The up to the minute is that Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara, who's been with him going back to Japan and has been with him this entire time in America, first told a story to ESPN, and to ESPN we know for sure that he got involved with an illegal bookmaker, had been placing bets, not on baseball according to him, but had been placing bets and had lost upwards of $4.5 million. This is Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, who has a gambling problem, who has lost $4.5 million to an illegal bookmaker. That bookmaker is being investigated right now by the feds, and they're looking and seeing who were some of your clients, and now here's Shohei Ohtani. His name has appeared as part of repaying these debts, Perloff. So the interpreter first tells the story that he's fallen into $4.5 million of debt, and that he went to Shohei Ohtani, and Ohtani agreed to help him pay back some of this debt to an illegal bookmaker. Mm-hmm. The interpreter said he watched Ohtani go into his own computer and to create a wire transfer, multiple wire transfers of $500,000 to send to this illegal bookmaker in Southern California where sports betting is not legal. And that's the original story. The story has since changed, and now it's Ohtani had no idea that the interpreter had gambling debts, no clue what was going on, never paid back the illegal bookmaker, and that, in fact, Ohtani has been the victim of massive theft.
Wow.
So this is a crazy story because there's one, or maybe there's several different reads on it. One is that Ohtani was basically trying to help out a friend who had fallen on really hard times. And let's talk about their relationship for a moment. This is not your average relationship. This is Ohtani's interpreter who's interpreting messages from his manager, going over scouting reports. I mean, they are tied at the hip. It's more than just a business relationship. They are also friends. So you can read it as Ohtani's helping out a friend who fell into hard times. There's another read on this that follow the paper trail, and Shohei Ohtani's name is on multiple wire transfers to an illegal bookmaker for $500,000 a clip.
It's so funny to me. If you said any star was on a bookmaker's records, that would immediately be this gigantic scandal. And this is developing to that. But I feel like Ohtani has already effectively distanced himself to some extent because the first headline that came out was this guy is robbing Shohei Ohtani. Somehow his people changed the narrative immediately. So it wasn't about Ohtani being on a bookmaker's books. Like that could have been the headline too. Ohtani linked to gambler could have been the headline. But the first headline I saw on ESPN yesterday was interpreter steals from Ohtani. So it's really interesting how this narrative is developing.
Yes. The first one is Ohtani is the victim of this theft,
Yes.
right? Then you just dig a little bit into the story and it's like, oh, well, that's the latest. What happened 24 hours ago when this interpreter was still laughing, joking around in the Dodgers dugout in South Korea before he got fired on Wednesday? This is Tuesday. He's there with Ohtani laughing and they're joking around like everything's fine. And now this has changed so much with him being fired yesterday. He did, the interpreter that is, again, Mizuhara, he addressed the team after the Dodgers win yesterday. So he goes into the clubhouse, he addresses the team and wants to give them a heads up that this story is coming out. And that's when Ohtani may have changed his tune about being, complicit in covering this guy's gambling debts to now he's the victim of fraud.
You know, it's funny too. This case is going to play out in California. The fact that we're talking about an interpreter and a different language is going to make this case wild because you know that. So they're going to be in court, and I assume he's going to have a different interpreter.
Yep.
It already seems like the difference in language is causing some chaos behind the scenes of the story. Like his teammates don't even really know what's going on. I'm not even sure that Ohtani knows exactly what's going on.
Well, that was another detail of the story that maybe yesterday when the original interpreter is coming clean and doing this mea culpa to the Dodgers, like, hey, I want to give you a heads up, the story is coming out, it's Ohtani looked confused and they brought in another interpreter. And after that, Ohtani then said, really lawyered up and said, this is, I've been the victim of a massive fraud.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. It's really funny. The interpreter has been a character in our lives. Like everyone knows Shohei's interpreter, and you always wonder, because when you're interpreting, you kind of change the words a little bit. I think we've always wondered: is he saying exactly what Shohei is saying, or is he massaging that message? So there's a lot going on here. Are we in the beginning of a giant scandal?
Yes, because I think we're in the beginning of a giant scandal because there's already 2 lies, I think, that are 100% lies. And tell me if you think they're lies.
Hit me.
2 lies on this. One, the interpreter saying that he racked up $4.5 million worth of gambling debts, betting on sports, didn't realize he was doing it with an illegal bookmaker.
Okay.
That is absolute 100% lie. His credibility now goes totally out the window with that simple lie.
Yep.
I met him at a poker game in 2021. I have a DraftKings account, but I decided to go with this illegal bookmaker. Why? Because betting's illegal in California. You can't sports bet in California. So that's definitely a lie.
Yeah, I think we'll 100% agree on that.
Yeah.
What's the second lie?
Okay, the second lie is that Ohtani, I think, wouldn't have known about it. How are these guys going to be this close? And could he really have not understood that this is the second lie? This is kind of the cover up now, is that Ohtani had no idea. Somehow the $500,000 wire transfers have Ohtani's name on it. Mm-hmm. They're not alleging this guy's committing wire fraud.
Yeah, but when somebody extorts from somebody else, you can hide it. Even really, that's how extortion works.
But what's the extort? It's not extorting.
Not extortion. What do you call embezzlement? I'm sorry. When you embezzle from your boss, you're presumably doing it secretly.
No, but Ohtani is the one who signed off on these. They're not alleging this guy had wire fraud. They're just saying Ohtani didn't know that what the $500,000 was for.
I think there is possibility that this, obviously this interpreter is a bit of a criminal.
Yeah.
He might have fooled Ohtani into something here. I think it is possible Ohtani did not know exactly what was going on because the interpreter, I assume, could have lied. We've already proven he's a liar. How do you know he didn't lie to Ohtani and say it was for something different?
Well, so he's going to break into Ohtani's computer and cut these $500,000 wire transfers to a legal bookmaker.
Ooh.
He's going to jail forever.
Well, now, okay. That actually makes more sense now you put it that way. I'm just saying, generally, when you embezzle from someone really close to you, this happens all the time. For some reason, I'm thinking of Selena, which is one of my favorite movies with J-Lo. Her head of business was stealing from her quietly for 10 years and eventually killed her, unfortunately. But generally, this is how embezzlement works. Possibly. Can you imagine a scenario where Shohei actually did not understand what was going on? I can. Also, too, this guy is a gambling addict. He's sick. He probably lies a lot.
Right. And
so he's probably lying to Ohtani. I think that at least that's conceivable. I'm willing to suspend belief and think that Shohei can distance himself from this. Am I naive? Possibly.
I think I think that's not giving him enough credit here. I mean, I think that Shohei, unless this guy who gave, again, this 90-minute interview to ESPN where he essentially said he came clean to Ohtani and Ohtani was going to help him out. I can't help but kind of believe that, considering the relationship was so close, that this guy would have said, hey, I need your help. And he also said, they said, well, why didn't Ohtani just give you the money to pay back the bookmaker? And he goes, well, Ohtani didn't trust me with that money because he thought I would gamble it away.
Yeah. So if Ohtani did pay for his debts, what are we looking at here? Is that suspension? I would imagine.
Without a doubt.
I mean, but I don't think it's a...
They're going to claim that Ohtani didn't know what he was doing and didn't know what he was giving to them. But, I mean, at some point, is like ignorance not an excuse? I don't know. Because you're definitely writing out $500,000 wire transfers, and the reason was just a quote-unquote loan.
Yeah, and you're only making $2 million a year if you're Ohtani.
I know.
With that weird contract. Just kidding about that. Obviously, he's making millions in sponsorship. Here's the next level of this story. His friend is in major gambling debt.
Yep.
He's linked now specifically to an illegal bookmaker. Did he do anything on the field that was his behavior affected? Probably not, because he killed it on the field. It's hard to imagine he was losing games or something. But that's why this new sports gambling world is so dangerous, and that's why MLB's got to watch this like a hawk. What if Shohei kind of let off the gas in the seventh inning? I don't think this ever happened. But that's the overall fear, right?
Well, not just that. So the interpreter is claiming that he never bet on baseball. Again, why would we ever believe you? You're sliding down into 7-figure gambling debts. You have access to this inside information. You're just betting college football? Yeah, right. Yeah, right. You're betting the Chargers on the road against Green Bay? No way. Like, this is, I would find that extremely hard to believe. And the $4.5 million, did he use baseball and his inside knowledge to get himself out of an even bigger debt? He claims he's like, I'm the worst gambler of all time. That we understand, sir. But did he have $5.5 million in debt and use baseball inside information potentially to get it down to 4.5? Clearly, this dude is desperate, right? So this is a crazy, crazy story.
I mean, Ohtani is the sport's biggest star. There is no doubt about that. This is going to be here for a long time. It'd be terrible for baseball if they link Ohtani to all this and he really gets a death penalty. That would be awful.
Well, if he deserves to be linked, then he deserves to be linked. I mean, we can't just put our head in the sand.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I'm just saying as a fan, that would really stink not to be able to see Ohtani play. And also, MLB's thinking the same way. They're praying that Ohtani is somewhat innocent here.
Pat Boyle is in this morning doing updates for us. Pat, you want to expand on this story at all, sir?
Yeah, I just, to add some comedy to it, I saw yesterday somebody tweeted, was like, what do you think? Do we think Rob Manfred would actually have the stones to suspend Shohei Ohtani? And somebody said they'll just defer the suspension till the end of his career.
2030. Very cute.
So on the field first, Game 2, Major League Baseball season in Seoul, South Korea, and 5-0 Padres, bottom of the first, although that might change right now. Freddie Freeman just ripped one into the gap, but most importantly, a rude MLB greeting for Yoshi Yamamoto. Got tagged for 4 hits, 5 runs in his first ever start in the very first inning. Joe Musgrove on the mound for the Padres. And yes, a Freddie Freeman RBI double brings in Shohei Ohtani. So it's 5-1, bottom first. And you guys mentioned the Ippei Mizuhara news from yesterday. Ohtani's interpreter fired, the $4.5 million in wire transfers. That's a wild story.
This is someone we're going to be. This story is going to be in our life for a while, everyone. So buckle up.
I feel like if this was, he's extremely lucky that NCAA tournament is today.
And they're in Korea.
This is the kind of story that I think our attention just for temporarily will turn to the NCAA tournament today. If not for that, this would be the number one story for the next week, I think. This is incredible.
And what did Ohtani know? When did he know it?
Right.
And what did he think that $500,000, the $1 million, the two $500,000 wire transfers were for? These are questions we need to answer.
Any money that comes out of Ohtani's pocket will be subject to suspension.
Yep.
Anything.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter what it's for.
No,
it's going to be linked to that, as you said.
Again, the ignorance is not going to be an excuse here. He gave money to an illegal bookmaker who's now getting busted by the feds and taking everyone down with him. Wow.
Yeah, what do we think? His interpreter puts $1 million on Wagner, win it all back in one shot.
Knowing this guy, I think he's probably betting, I don't know, first round NIT.
I hope he didn't bet the under in this game.
Probably put it on Purdue last year.
By the way, as far as the news cycle, Dak Prescott's brother will probably tweet on Tuesday in the NFL. Don't discount the NFL; they'll be in there too. I know it's middle of March, but I'll bet you Ohtani's probably like, "Hey, Cowboys, can you sign Dak so no one's talking about it?"
We're less than 6 away from the madness. We officially have our field of 64. The first four games last night. The Grambling Tigers out of the SWAC took down Montana State in the 16th seed matchup, 88-81 in OT. And then in the battle of the 10 seeds, Colorado stifled Boise State, winning 60-53. Here's Buffs coach Tad Boyle. That's right, our very own Dave Shepard here on CBS Sports Radio last night.
It's a business trip for me. And I'll say everybody.
You got to have good individual defenders, but you have to be connected as a team. And, whether it's playing out of rotations, whether it's playing, ball screen defense, whatever the case may be, you got to have good individual defenders. But more importantly, you got to be a great team defense.
Today, first few games include Tom Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans going up against Mississippi State, Akron Creighton, Long Beach State, Arizona, and yes, Wagner versus North Carolina. Do you guys have a trendy upset pick for today? Have you talked about that yet at all so far?
We're going to do that later.
We are doing it later, but also, just so you know, CBSSports.com, you can enter our tournament, Pearl Jam Season 3. Our pal Nick in Texas is the mastermind behind this. It's absolutely free. You can play alongside us. I just want to also do a quick PSA. So I filled out that bracket yesterday on my phone.
Yeah.
Went to the website, and it didn't save any of my picks. So just double check. And I pushed save. The mobile was not simpatico with the desktop.
Just
so
scared me because I did it on my phone as well.
Go check CBS Sports and see if you're still there. So
By the way, the Grambling Montana State, they play Purdue now. Everyone's talking about it. Is that a danger spot? I know, and I saw a lot of people said Montana State matches up well with Purdue, but I don't know about Grambling. But I know Maggie is not high on that particular number one seed.
Well, the last year, obviously, they lose to FDU in the first round, and everybody remembers they lost to St. Peter's. That was in the Elite Eight. That wasn't in the first. They got all the way to the Elite Eight and then got dumped by a 15 seed. So,
but you're telling me you're not going to do a drive?
Sweet 16.
Yeah, Sweet 16.
We're going to do a drive-by on that number one versus number 16 seed. That is like, ooh, boy.
Well, Seth Davis last night is giving a breakdown about why this particular Grambling team is similar to St. Peter's. And I'm
boy.
What are we talking about?
Oh, boy.
Can this actually happen again?
I mean, if you're a Purdue fan, you're a little nervous.
A little.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you just got to get that first round game out of the way, then you're fine. But that first round game is probably the scariest game for the Boilermakers.
Yeah, lastly, you guys started with March Madness, how the tournament's currently constructed. Should we expand the tournament beyond 68 teams? Many coaches have been asked this recently. Kentucky's John Calipari certainly had a fiery response.
It's a business trip for me. And I'll say everybody that's in this thing, I would say they'd say the same thing. Keep it where it is. Don't mess with something that's great. And the committee literally don't care. Whoever's on it's going to get the same grief that this group got, the last group got. It's what it is. No science to this. You're going to make some mistakes.
Yeah. He's right. No matter, there could be 100 teams. We'll be arguing about the 101st. And
totally.
Yeah, you're never going to please everybody. And then the other part of this, they want to put some retired coaches on the committee, like Jim Boeheim and Coach K, and have some of these retired coaches, so it's not just athletic directors and athletic and conference commissioners or whatever. Fine, but are they going to have biases?
Yeah, that's the worst idea. Every time I keep hearing put Jim Boeheim in there so he can help out his buddies and his friends who are not the small conference schools, but the big conference schools. No, that is the last thing we need. I don't know what the answer is. I don't think it's put in big-name guys who are friends with all the Power 5 coaches. That makes no sense.
Well, maybe Calipari can be there next year if Kentucky goes out early. Because that seems like that party's coming to an end in Lexington. I mean, everyone must be thinking that. I mean, how many times is this guy going to lose now?
Got some Caleb Williams Pro Day sound for you guys. Scores from the NBA last night, women's college tournament.
Save it for us.
Yeah,
We'll get to that. Pat, we're happy to have you in with us today. It's an exciting day in sports. This is one of the best day in sports today and tomorrow.
Pro Day sound. I'm tempted. What is a Pro Day sound? Let's go.
We will get to that. Lots of news coming up from Pro Days. And again, this Shohei Ohtani scandal that is unfolding as we speak while he's playing in South Korea right now. You cannot make it up. It's Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. NCAA tournament starts in earnest. We got baseball on. We got a massive scandal unfolding in Major League Baseball. Shohei Ohtani's interpreter got caught up in a gambling scandal, and either Ohtani knew about it and helped him cover his debts with an illegal bookmaker, or Ohtani is the victim of massive fraud.
Wow, the Dodgers already took out Yamamoto after one inning. They're down 5-1. This $325 million pitcher, that's kind of wild.
Well, for you guys, these games don't even count because they're in South Korea. It's weird that they're going to come back and play more spring training games, and then we get opening day part 2.
I just remember I spent a ton of time during Hot Stove thinking about this. I tried to get him to the Phillies, used all my powers. And
how'd that go?
You forget that sometimes you pay a lot of money for players and it does not work out.
It's the first start. I mean,
oh, he's done.
The first start.
Got pulled after one inning.
You got a massive scandal that's involving people from his home country that's, just unfolding all around him. I think we can give him a pass.
No way. 5 runs in his first inning ever in Major League Baseball for one of the richest pitchers of all time.
Yeah, get it out of your system.
I hope so
he'll probably
for the Dodgers.
rebound and win the Cy Young. Okay, yesterday some pro days. We'll get to Caleb Williams at the top of the hour, but quickly Marvin Harrison Jr. No workouts again for Maserati Marv Perloff. You think this is revealing about the top wide receiver from Ohio State?
So I've been reading about Marvin Harrison Jr.'s athletic skills for a long time. I mentioned it yesterday on the show. There's a reporter named Bruce Feldman who does a freak list, and he had Marvin Harrison Jr. at the top of this list, saying he is a combination of size and speed like we've never seen. So everybody, I think people want to see him run a 4.33 at 6'4", 200 pounds. He'd be the reincarnation of Calvin Johnson. He is not doing any of that. He didn't work out at the combine, won't work out at the pro day. Of course, everyone knows what he did at Ohio State, so it's not going to affect his draft spot at all. He'll go 4 or 5 for sure. But I do think that he is really bucking the trend and saying, I'm not going to be like other players. I think you're going to get a player who is going to go, what's the expression, by the beat of his own drum.
Okay.
I do not think he's going to be your average wide receiver. I don't think he's going to do a lot of interviews. I don't think he's going to be the face of a franchise. I think Marvin Harrison Jr., much like his dad, is going to be quiet and just ball out.
Okay, so that's the question. If you think he's going to go to the beat of his own drum and be a little bit of a different dude, do you think this is going to hurt him or the future team he gets drafted to?
No.
Okay, so then why does he have to do any of this?
Because
why does it even matter?
Because I'm a draft fan, and Bruce Feldman told me that he...
So this is about you, not about Maserati Marv.
I listen to these stats. You didn't want to see this. Harrison apparently can bench 380 pounds, squat 500 pounds, and has run 40s in the 4.3 range. I mean, there's never been a prospect like that.
Right.
If he had done all that and put that on display, all of a sudden, I mean, maybe it's fake. We would have been hearing, oh, maybe he jumps the quarterbacks. And now all we're hearing is he might be wide receiver 2 behind LSU's Malik Neighbors, who everyone says is more explosive. So I do think... I think the NFL's smarter than that, but I do think you're going to hear a lot of narrative. Well, you know what? Marvin Harrison, more of a possession guy. Malik Neighbors, more of an explosive guy.
Okay, well,
which is interesting to me.
I'll ask you this. I know there's reports that the Vikings could trade up to 4, but let's say that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
If I'm Marvin Harrison, maybe it's not a bad thing if Malik Neighbors does go before me. Have fun in Arizona. I'm going to be over here with the LA Chargers. I'm going to be over here with Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert, and maybe I have a better career because I decided not to run the 40 for you guys. If you're going to be that stupid and if you're a scout or you're a team and you're going to really say, all right, we're going to pass on you because you didn't bench press for us, even though we have 2 seasons of you at Ohio State being awesome, maybe you deserve what you get, and he'll end up in a better spot.
Well, there's a lot of draft rumors that Arizona wants to trade out. Even their GM said we're open for business. So Arizona needs 50 players. Actually, you're absolutely right. That is not a great fit because that's a rebuilding team. He liked a tweet from the Chargers yesterday. Is that the deal, or an Instagram post? yes, you'd rather be with Justin Herbert in LA. I don't think Arizona's taking him at 4. No matter, I don't think there's any scenario. They'll trade out because they need 50 players. They can't rely on Harrison. I hear you. Neighbors, I'm hearing a lot of Neighbors is the next Tyreek Hill. Honestly, it's going to be really interesting to watch this draft because Marvin Harrison could have got out, run out 40 and prove that he's that fast, but now we don't know. We don't know, Maggie.
Coming up, we've got sound from Caleb Williams from his pro day yesterday. What did he have to say about his future in the NFL? And again, more on the Shohei Ohtani scandal that is unfolding before our eyes. Get to that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's destined to get knocked out by Jake Paul. She's destined to film it. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
The face of baseball could be in some huge trouble. Hey, welcome to the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Perloff, it's details about a betting scandal now, a sports gambling scandal that has wrapped up Shohei Ohtani. So here's what's going on. While Ohtani is literally playing right now in South Korea, his longtime interpreter and friend has been fired from the Dodgers because he was making illegal sports bets with a bookmaker in California to the tune of $4.5 million in losses. Sports betting is not legal in California, so he was making bets with an illegal bookmaker, and there's two versions of this story. The first version is that he came clean to Ohtani, did a mea culpa, asked Ohtani to cover his gambling debts, and Ohtani cut two different wire transfers of $500,000 each to this illegal bookmaker on behalf of his friend and interpreter. That's the first story. The second story, which changed between Tuesday and Wednesday, was that Ohtani had no idea that his friend and interpreter was gambling, did not know what the money was for, and in fact has been the victim of massive fraud.
This is not good, Maggie.
No.
This is not good for the face of baseball.
No.
Here's the thing. It's going to be such a confusing case because the interpreter and Shohei, and you've already, how many times has the story changed? Twice, majorly.
Two big ones, yeah.
I think this is just
changes.
the beginning. I think Ohtani's got a huge group around him. I think he's going to try and confuse, obfuscate, make it, I didn't know what was happening, and distance himself, because let's look at where this could go. Obviously, if you can link him directly to a bookmaker, that's already a suspension. If you ever link him even more, if he gets more involved, bigger suspension. If you ever think that he did something on the field, which I think is way, way away, but that's got to be the suspicion. If it was, I think we all like Shohei and we all assume the best out of him, but we have no idea. I mean, listen, Pete Rose said, I never affected a baseball game by my betting. And I think he's
still banned from the sport.
He's still banned from the sport, and I don't think we all believed him. Yeah. I think everyone said, well, you know what? Maybe you made a different bullpen decision because you had money on this game. If you could ever link anything to the game, then we're talking scandal of the decade.
You're absolutely right. And again, the fact that according to the reporting from both ESPN and the LA Times, who are both all over this story, there are wire transfers that have Shohei Ohtani's name on it. And not only that, it's actually spelled the correct way. Apparently, he doesn't have an H in his name. The way that he spells it, it's just Otani. And that's the way that it appears on the wire transfer. And the interpreter is saying that he watched Ohtani from Ohtani's computer make these two $500,000 wire transfers to this bookmaker for a quote-unquote loan, because the bookmaker said you have to put a reason. You don't want to say gambling debts, so you put to a loan. And of course, the bookmaker gets busted. The feds are now investigating the bookmaker. And what do you think's going to happen? The bookmaker and the associates of the bookmaker are singing like canaries. So they have Ohtani, and they at least have his name linked. They said he never met Ohtani in person, but they have his name linked. And now you've got one of the major athletes and, again, the face of the sport who's directly linked to a bookmaker. It is a disaster. And here's the thing. Even if Ohtani tries to plead ignorance, I don't think that's going to be a defense here. Maybe in the court of public opinion, but I don't know if that's a defense in actual court, if it goes there.
Yeah, but you could try. I mean, he's going to have to try something here, Maggie. I think that there's a long legal battle ahead, and he will claim he did not understand the gambling nature of this. there's going to be gray area galore.
Yeah.
By the way, Ohtani playing really well already this season.
Just drove in a run.
I think that he's actually going to ball out while this is all going on, because baseball is a funny sport. I don't think that kind of distraction necessarily is going to affect your hitting. It's really just you're up there against a pitcher. You're not going to be, maybe this will be a refuge for Shohei. I think the irony is Shohei will probably have another MVP season while all this is going on. I do think also there's a long way to go before he actually gets in trouble. He's probably got the best lawyers on earth. He's going to use language as a major barrier in the California court system.
Yeah.
He's going to say, I didn't understand this. This was said to me this way and that way. And then here's another question. What about the Dodgers? I mean, what is their role in this? Is this going to be beyond just Shohei, and is a team going to be culpable?
Yeah, did anyone know that this guy was racking up these gambling debts? Because here's the thing. The interpreter, again, making bets with an illegal bookmaker to the tune of $4.5 million in losses, and he did this mea culpa yesterday to the Dodgers after the game. He gets fired, but there's a lot of things that are hard to believe that kind of stretch the ability to believe. Right. Number one, the interpreter saying he didn't know that the bookmaker was illegal. It's like, all right, well, you lost $4.5 million. Clearly, betting is a huge part of your life. You have a DraftKings account. That doesn't work in California because sports betting's not legal there. Like, come on. You met the guy at a poker game. I mean, it just stretches all bounds of any kind of possibility. The other is that Shohei Ohtani didn't know. Now, listen, I get it. People hide their vices, and you might not be fully privy to everything that your friends or even family members are doing. But let's not paint this like Ohtani just shows up to the ballpark and this guy, the interpreter, answers a couple questions about got to take it one day at a time and wow, I'm so happy to be in Cleveland finally, or whatever. They are really tight. This is a guy who, as a translator, is really like a lifeline for Ohtani. The wives are friends. The families are friends. They post on Instagram all these pictures with each other. Ohtani does with the interpreter and his wife. This is somebody who's interpreting what the coaches and managers' messages are to Ohtani. He's reading scouting reports for Ohtani. He plays catch with Ohtani. Ohtani doesn't even do that with his own teammates. They're doing fungos and stuff with this guy. Like, he is a huge part of his life. To think that Ohtani would have no clue that this guy is placing these bets, I can't believe it.
Well, I will say one thing. Gambling addicts, or just like any other addicts, they're incredibly conniving. They're incredibly clever. You can hide stuff from your family. I mean, we've heard so many stories. I do believe that it's not as simple, like that Shohei definitely knew everything was going on. Look at the guy who just stole $22 million from the Jaguars, another gambling addict.
Yeah.
Gambling addicts are very good at fooling people around them. Drug addicts are the same way. I think that there is a chance that Shohei did not understand exactly what was happening. I mean, there could be a gray area. Do you think this guy came up and said, I've been betting with an illegal bookie. Can I have 500 million, 500,000.
2 wire transfers of $500,000 each.
Is it possible? Is it possible he manipulated or fooled Shohei into making this payment? I think that's believable because this guy, you said it, he's a liar.
Right.
So why would he not lie to Shohei?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not automatically giving Shohei the benefit of the doubt on this but maybe I should. Maybe that's wrong of me. We're going to find out. But bottom line is Shohei's name is now linked to an illegal bookmaker. It is a disaster on top of a disaster for Ohtani.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be a little speculation too. Like, I don't know if people think Ohtani was placing the bets or whatever. It's not illegal for Ohtani to bet on other sports, by the way. If you're an athlete, you can bet on the NBA and college football and football. You just can't do it from the facility is generally one of the rules.
That's a baseball rule?
Baseball, you can't bet on baseball. Do you remember Jameson Williams got in trouble with the Detroit Lions because he was betting on college football, but he was betting from the facility? Right, that's a no-no.
I think that's an NFL rule.
That might just be NFL.
But regardless, also, there's no betting in California. So,
right. It's all illegal.
Yeah, this is definitely a mess. I'm just very curious to watch Shohei try and push this away from himself and his team. First of all, don't discount that team and baseball and the Dodgers. There's a lot of money wrapped up in Shohei. He is really the big ticket for the sport right now.
Yep.
Pitcher, best hitter in baseball. I'll bet you everyone, we were joking about Rob Manfred you think Rob Manfred wants to suspend Shohei Ohtani? No way. He's like, you know what? Maybe I'm going to retire early because this is going to be very hard for baseball to do, to sit probably their most popular player right now.
I get it, and I know that Calvin Ridley wasn't the same type of popular, and it was a parlay, and he got a year suspension.
Patrick Mahomes was not getting a year suspension.
Okay, definitely not, but is there something where there's so much at stake for the sport beyond Shohei? You know, he is the face, yes, but there's so much more beyond him. Do you have to send a message here? Rob Manfred loves to send a message. That guy has not been a message he doesn't like to send.
I would send a message with the White Sox second baseman, not Shohei Ohtani. I don't think they're going to send a message here. I think Shohei's too important to the sport.
Do you think he's going to skate on this the whole way?
I think he probably will get a suspension. No, I don't think the hammer comes down on Shohei. This is, again, a lot of more facts to come out here. If he is not linked directly to sports gambling himself, I think he skates here. And I think it's because of star power. And, that means a lot in America.
So here's the thing. You're saying if they find out he's linked, he's already linked.
No, but if he was making the bets, if he's not making the bets and he's covering for his friend, I think he finds a way to wiggle out of this. You're right. I might be way too forgiving to Shohei Ohtani, but I do think there are a lot of people who do not want to see him away from the sport. And I think that matters.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Man, not what baseball was hoping for.
Well, they are in the news. The irony of baseball is the most popular they've ever been is when there's gigantic cheating scandals going on. This is not necessarily a death knell. At least people are going to tune in now.
Oh, gosh. I don't know. Again, 855-212-4CBS. So the details on this, wow. Just pretty stunning. And it's funny because even if Ohtani does, the fact that the story has changed so wildly in 24 hours. The story from The Interpreter was Ohtani knew about my gambling debts. He covered $1 million of my gambling debts for me. I owe him everything. I just want you to know Ohtani had nothing to do with this. He didn't gamble on sports. This was all me. To then, he knew nothing about this. All this money has been stolen from him. It's just such a 180-degree turn from the original story. Even if the story is from someone who's lying, it is such a huge turn.
The tricky thing, though, the public, the first thing they heard was that this guy was stealing from Ohtani. That's the first headline I saw.
Right.
And that's kind of stuck in my head, too. And even if Ohtani was covering him, this guy is the criminal here. Actually, the bookie is the real criminal.
Yeah. Well.
But it feels like the translator is already set up to be the bad guy, not Ohtani.
Oh, definitely. He's out front. This is like, Barry Bonds is, the guy who went to jail for him. For obstructing justice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's out there. He wants to take the medicine.
No, but I don't see it that way because Bonds was the bad guy in that scenario. The interpreter is the bad guy in this scenario.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, I think the guy who was going down for Bonds was a victim in a way. I think Ohtani seems like the victim right now. Maybe I'm naive, but it feels like he was screwed over.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Okay, it is one of the greatest days in sports. First day in earnest of the NCAA tournament. Nick Kostos is going to join us from You Better You Bet. This is funny that we're going to have a betting expert on after we're talking about the scandal, but Nick is at everything above board. He's going to give us some tips for filling out your brackets next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. Wild day here, first day of the tournament. Trying to cover this Shohei Ohtani news linked to a gambling scandal. And Maggie, we're just at the beginning. The onion is going to be unpeeled for a long time now. And I think it's incredibly fascinating.
Yeah, it's Shohei Ohtani's interpreter who was placing bets with an illegal bookmaker in California to the tune of $4.5 million in losses. And where the big divergence here when it comes to Ohtani is the first story was Ohtani knew about the gambling debts and actually cut 2 wire transfers of $500,000 each to an illegal bookmaker to cover or help cover the gambling losses incurred by his interpreter. The second story because this story changed very quickly from Tuesday to Wednesday, is actually Ohtani had no idea that this interpreter was gambling, had no idea about the money, and that he's just been the victim of massive fraud. Oof. Let's go to Brent, who's in Tennessee, has a thought on this scandal. Hey, Brent, how are you?
Doing well, Maggie. Yourself?
We're doing good. What's your take on Ohtani?
Good. You know, as soon as I heard this, my mind went back to him deferring all of his money till later on, which is kind of unusual.
Yeah.
So I got to thinking, is this an issue where maybe he knows he's got a gambling problem and he wanted to protect his long-term money and maybe get this under control?
Wow.
Yeah, I had the same thought. I mean, like,
Brent, it's a great thought.
That explained it more than I thought, but I'm like, Shohei Ohtani, what's he known for this gigantic deferment? Is it somehow linked to this? So maybe somebody couldn't get all his money now.
So it's $700 million contract over 10 years with 680 of it deferred for 10 years. So he's not getting the money until, what year is it, 2034? Something about there. Is it, maybe Brent, and it's a good theory, is it that Ohtani has a gambling problem, or did he understand that he's been implicated in this scandal? And
right, so if the MLB,
about that,
maybe if the if we were, this is terrible because we have no proof of this. Just to be very clear, we're jumping to conclusions here. What if he knew MLB was going to suspend him for a year, and then he was going to lose that salary for a year? Now he's only losing $2 million. Ooh.
Well, this is like a little of what happened with Deshaun Watson and the Browns that first year.
Yeah.
People were upset because Deshaun got a fully guaranteed $230 million contract, and the first year only paid him $1 million because they knew he'd be suspended.
Oh. I forgot about that.
This is interesting. Do you think a lot of people believe that this is also just a cover and that Ohtani is the one with the gambling problem and the interpreter was making bets for Ohtani?
I think it's too early to leap that way. To me, I mean, yes, I do think a lot of people are going to think that, but we have no proof. I mean, we got to be clear.
Right.
As hosts of the show, we cannot say that. I think it's irresponsible to say that at this point.
Right. All we have is a paper trail of two $500,000 wire transfers with Ohtani's name on it. I'm glad that ain't me. Ray's in California. Hey, Ray.
Hey, how you doing, Maggie? So from what I heard, I drive at night. I'm a truck driver. But from what I've heard while listening to different programs is that the money came from Ohtani's personal account.
Right.
So how is he not implicated? I mean, he has to have some egg on his face, right?
Oh.
I mean, I just don't see how he can just, get away scot-free or, and just put it all as interpreter.
Oh, right. I mean, you're with the majority, I think, of all of us, and thanks for making that distinction. The interpreter is saying Ohtani went to his laptop, his own personal laptop, and cut these two checks, basically, to an illegal bookmaker. Boom, you're implicated. Boom, the commissioner could suspend you off of that alone. What Ohtani, I think, is going to say is he didn't know either what the money was for, and he was duped out of the money, or that never happened.
It's a unique relationship, a player and an interpreter. Basically, the player is putting his life in this interpreter's hands. This interpreter could say anything to the media. So there's got to be a level of trust that is huge here. And I think that's going to be part of it. Ohtani's going to say, I trusted him with my computer. I trusted him with my life, basically. So he's going to, if Ohtani is smart, he's going to put it all on the interpreter. I mean, let's face it, if that interpreter is in the perfect position to steal from a Shohei Ohtani, that's believable too. I mean, it is believable, though, Ohtani's a victim here.
No doubt. It can be any way this thing turns. I might believe it. Pat Boyle is here doing updates for us this morning. How you doing, Pat?
I'm doing good. Speaking of Ohtani and baseball on the field, his counterpart, Yoshi Yamamoto, MLB debut, lasted just one inning. Shelled to the tune of 5 runs, 4 hits. The Padres jumped all over him right away. Game 2 of the baseball season in Seoul, South Korea. It's 9-2 San Diego in the bottom of the third. Joe Musgrove on the bump for the Padres. 2 innings so far for him, but all the run support you could imagine. No home runs yet in this game, but it's been death by singles and sac flies and doubles and a couple of errors as well. So
Can I make a hot take right here? I think this game is not over.
Yeah?
9-2 in the third inning. Dodgers have runners on. This feels like one of those games, and I'm here for it. Early morning shootout baseball, scandal floating over. This is amazing.
Do we get our first comeback of the day, not from the tournament, but from baseball in South Korea?
I think this game's long gone.
Where did 9 come from? I totally missed that.
Yeah.
You start talking about betting scandals, you blink, and all of a sudden the Padres are up 9.
Dodgers had the bases loaded earlier and flew out. This game is not over. You're going to, Pat, trust me on this one.
Dude, Dave Roberts is going to run out like the guys, like the long relief guys. Grove was just pitching. He got lit up. Like this just feels like a game where San Diego, it doesn't matter who they run out there, they're getting blown up.
You saw the highlights from yesterday. The San Diego Padres guy didn't even he had a hole in his glove.
Yeah,
this is Major League Baseball, and the guy blew the game because he had a hole in his glove. Anything could happen.
Maybe it was Shohei Ohtani's interpreter.
Honestly, I feel like we're almost a few seconds away from a position player taking the mound. Guys, you can't think that what's going on with the Dodgers and this scandal breaking is not going to have an impact on the team. Definitely.
Oh, no way. This is baseball. Those guys are used to anything. This is going to...
Yeah.
That's just, run of the mill. All right.
Sure.
Next
Dodgers...
game.
Not to do play-by-play, Dodgers just missed hitting a 3-run homer by 2 feet.
It's true.
So you get excited about foul balls now?
I think it's going to be 18-14 Padres. That's my prediction.
Is it too soon to be like, hey, maybe we should throw a little scratch
I was just thinking about it. I was like, why don't you live at the game then?
But the Dodgers
guys,
right now?
EJ, it is legal here in New York.
EJ, I'm going to need you to make a wire transfer.
EJ, how much money's in your wallet?
You guys have been all over the Ohtani stuff. We'll talk about that again next hour. March Madness, first 4 games last night, saw Grambling out of the SWAC beat Montana State 88-81 in OT. In the battle of the 16 seeds, in the 10-seed matchup, Colorado took out Boise State 60-53. Madness officially kicks off today, 16 games, another 16 tomorrow. We'll see 15-seed Long Beach State take on Arizona in Salt Lake City. One of the best storylines on day one of the tournament features Long Beach State head coach Dan Monson. He was fired by the school after the regular season was over. They said, sure, we'll let you finish out. You can coach the conference tournament. They win the conference tournament. Now he's in the dance. He's not getting paid. He feels like he's living out a real-life Seinfeld episode.
I don't have to answer anything I don't want to because I'm working for free today. So it's like you guys see the Seinfeld when George Costanza was trying to get fired and couldn't lose his job and still going to work every day, and that's me. I'm a Seinfeld episode going on right now in real life.
How great! The guy has no job. He's coaching for free. They're in the dance. I mean, imagine if they were one of the 15 seeds that pulls off the shock.
Yeah, attention front office morons. It's a great Seinfeld episode where George is trying to get fired from the Yankees to get hired by the Mets.
I think he combined 2 episodes.
He did.
Because that's when he tries to get fired from the Yankees, and then there's another one where he does get fired but keeps showing up.
Yes, and that apparently was a real life thing that happened to Larry David.
Of course.
That he actually quit in a huff Saturday Night Live, being a writer on SNL in the 70s because they didn't do a sketch or something like that. And he realizes over the weekend what a horrible mistake he made. So he just shows up again on Monday like nothing ever happened. And Dick Ebersol's like, get the hell out of here.
I also remember Kramer went to work at a place. He wasn't even an employee. He just showed up every day, became the most popular guy in the office and didn't do anything.
Old man Leland's busting my hump. He goes, we got to fire you. And he goes, I don't even work here. And the boss goes, that's what makes this so difficult.
By the way, 9-4.
Yeah,
already.
Musgrove,
I'm telling you. Let's go Dodgers.
They're using the juice balls today. NFL Caleb Williams had his pro
day. How many
day.
Scandals can we pack into one game?
As many as we can get.
Who
Caleb
did
Williams
Shohei's interpreter bet on today? That's terrible. Too soon.
Caleb Williams had his pro day yesterday at USC, according to NFL Network Steve Weish. Williams had dinner with the Bears the night before his pro day. Here's Caleb Williams. Does he expected to be drafted by Chicago?
I wouldn't say it's my full expectation. Obviously, things can happen. Things can change throughout this time. I think it's around 33 days or so, 30 days until, April 25th. And so, a lot can change. You take it day by day. Handle and control what you can control.
NBA last night in OKC, the Thunder edged back into first in the West, pulled away to beat the Jazz 119-107. SGA, another 30-burger. Chet Holmgren with a 35-point double-double. Domas Sabonis.
Did you hear that? I know.
Whoa. Pat, I don't know if you know this bet. If Victor Wembanyama wins Rookie of the Year, I have to drive to San Antonio. I'm praying Chet Holmgren does something.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and he's got to apologize to Wemby.
Well, the nail in the coffin was when they played each other, and Wembanyama basically won the game for the Spurs.
I told you.
But I agree. I thought Chet should have won Rookie of the Year before that game because he's putting up absurd numbers, and he's the 3rd or 4th best scorer on OKC.
And they're a better team.
Yeah.
But
Matters
this
for
is
MVP
over.
winning, doesn't matter for Rookie of the Year.
Wemby has actually, and he's improved. I mean, hot take there. But Wemby, I am very impressed by Victor Wembanyama. I was wrong. I honestly, I wasn't kidding. I didn't think it was going to work, and he is... Newsflash. Wemby's pretty good.
Yeah, that guy's good. And the only prayer you had of losing the bet, obviously we would never root for injuries around here, but when he turned the ankle, then you had a prayer because maybe he wouldn't even be eligible for a postseason award, but he's back and he's great.
Then you're hoping Popovich, load manage the rest of the year.
65 games is all I needed to play 64 games. Forget it. I'm fueling up the Honda as we speak.
Domas Sabonis, another triple-double. Kings crushed the Raptors 123-89, and no Giannis for the second straight game. The Celtics then had to hold off a furious Bobby Portis, and the Bucks come back. Boston nearly blew a 21-point lead. They held on to win 122-119. And then we got the women's college tournament kicking off tomorrow. They've got their last first four games tonight. Arizona-Auburn in the 11-seed matchup, and then UT Martin versus Holy Cross in the 16-seed matchup.
Sorry, did you do the Suns game?
No,
not this time.
I'm saving that.
You're saving that. Okay, because yesterday we did, I don't want to trample on your future updates, but if you're in the car now and you're not going to be later. So yesterday we did our great debate, which we do on Wednesdays, every Wednesday, 8 Eastern. And it was the greatest college basketball villain of all time. And so obviously Duke was heavily represented on that list. And Perloff, you went with Grayson Allen. He dropped 35 last night. I was like, was he hearing the show? Did he hear his name? Like his ears must have been ringing, and then he went out and was raining threes.
I did say on the show yesterday, he's shooting 48% from three. He's a real factor in the NBA. But he's only scoring like 11 points a game. But, man, a guy like that in today's NBA is perfect, and he doesn't trip people anymore.
Not yet. Wait for the playoffs, if they make it.
He can't help himself. It's compulsion. It's like Shohei's interpreter.
I feel like
it's a sickness.
Didn't he go to an anger management guy to get him through that?
I don't know.
He did.
Management guy. He needs to go to somebody to not make him,
No, he had a compulsive triple problem at Duke. Remember, like 4 years ago, this was the number one story. And now, before Shohei's interpreter, there was Grayson Allen tripping people.
How about Draymond getting another scuffle last night? These guys go to get this help, and it doesn't take the first time.
Got that one, knocked Taylor Jenkins onto the floor, the Grizzlies coach. Yeah, it's not anger management. It's just called don't be an a-hole.
I think that
you should start a program.
He's gotten over a lot of that. He's talked about it. He's actually a pretty good story. He still hated him at Duke.
He definitely made the cut for our most hated athletes, college basketball athletes. Okay. Thank you, Pat. Got a lot more to do this morning. We're going to keep them coming. Again, the Shohei Ohtani story, just bizarre. And now he's up to bat with the Dodgers trailing 9-6. What happened? You're right. Every time we look up, the score is closer and closer with a man on, and Ohtani.
Yeah, this is
He's got to
wild.
have the weight of the world on his shoulders now. I know athletes can compartmentalize, but goodness gracious, the guy's interpreter and best friend is...
Weight of the world. It's a fastball or curveball. You swing. There's no distractions in baseball.
All right. Well, let's get to it. Again, Pat, thank you very much. Let's turn to our pal, Nick Costos. Of course, he's the co-host of You Better You Bet. Phenomenal day of programming on BetQL. Nick is going to be doing a tournament show. Nick, 9 to noon, right? For you and Ken Barkley this morning? And good morning.
Right, 9 a.m. to noon. So a bit of an early. I'm like up at your guys' neck of the woods right now. I got up at like 6:30 this morning, which was no fun, but good to talk to you guys. 9 a.m. to noon coming up. You Better You Bet today.
Well, thank you for making the sacrifice. We appreciate it. I'm sure you were up late
last night. It was
last
a sacrifice, to be honest, but for you guys, I'll do it.
Listen, who's better than you? Nick Costos, you're our favorite. Before we get to the tournament, though, Nick, because sports betting and wagertainment is your lifeblood, you see the Shohei Ohtani interpreter scandal. He's making bets to the tune of $4.5 million in losses with this illegal bookmaker. How do you interpret this scandal as someone who's made this your life?
Well, I think we kind of need like more information to come out. I know everyone's kind of rushed to judgment and says, well, it's definitely Ohtani that was the one that was betting. I mean, maybe, like also maybe not. He fronted this dude, his interpreter, $4.5 million. To Shohei Ohtani, that's probably like, it would be like me like fronting someone like $500 probably with how much money Ohtani has. I mean, not just the money that he makes on the field, but everything he makes off the field. Probably a drop in the bucket for someone he probably considers a pretty good friend. So it's possible that he's like the Japanese Michael Jordan, and this is going to be like a massive scandal. It's possible. I think it's also possible that it's not, and that this was the interpreter going rogue and that the interpreter has a big-time gambling addiction, which is scary, obviously. Kind of like the guy that worked for the Jacksonville Jaguars and lost like $22 million of like the Jaguars' money, playing daily fantasy and losing money betting on sports. So I think we kind of need to all just chill for a second. Let's wait for more facts and information to come out. It's possible this is going to be one of the great scandals in sports that we've seen in this century. Also, it's possible that he was just fronting the money for his interpreter, and the interpreter got himself into hot water.
All right, Nick. On a lighter note and a more fun note, obviously the tournament.
Oh, you mean that wasn't fun? Or?
Yeah, I was going to do Temple basketball next, but no. Okay. I, of course, like everyone is filling out my bracket. We're going to ask for early upsets, but the number 1 and number 2 seeds have been vulnerable in the last 5 years. Are there any really possible upsets? Is there a 15 or a 16 seed that we should watch this year? It's kind of hard to see those teams coming. Is there anyone you like?
No would be the answer to that question. Do I like any of them? No. Do I think that they could cover the spread? Yeah, I think a couple of them could potentially cover the spread. I'll tell you, I don't like St. Peter's to cover. Tennessee has been bet out there, and I know St. Peter's a couple years ago made the magical run to the Elite Eight. Took down a couple tournament heavies in Purdue and Kentucky along the way to get to the Elite Eight. Shaheen Holloway coached that St. Peter's team. He's now the head coach at Seton Hall. This is not that same team, and Tennessee's got like really, really top-end talent, including Dalton Knecht. I think Tennessee covers the spread in that game. Marquette's going to get Tyler Kolek back, their best player, in the 2:15 game in the South region against Western Kentucky. I like Marquette to cover there. I do think because of the style Iowa State plays, really slowing the game down, and look what they did to Houston in the Big 12 tournament title game. Houston scores 41 points in that game. It's possible Iowa State just boa constrictors this game against the Jackrabbits and wins like a similar score, like 70-40. But what if Iowa State has a bad shooting game? Now, I don't know if it's going to happen in this game against South Dakota State. I do think out of the 4-1s and the 4-2s that Iowa State is the most ripe for an early upset in the couple rounds of the tournament. We did see Arizona, for what it's worth. No one predicted Arizona would lose last year. They were a 2 last year, lost to the 15 Princeton, who went to the Sweet 16. I don't think that happens against Long Beach State, but everyone just keep that in mind that we did see a Tommy Lloyd team. Lloyd! Lose last year as a 2 seed in the first round. And North Carolina should roll over Wagner, my wife's alma mater, unfortunately. But I do think North Carolina will win.
I like the entourage reference there. Nick Costos joining us from You Better You Bet. They have a show this morning that's unusual. Usually you guys are on in the afternoon, but you and Ken Barkley are going to do 9 a.m. to noon across the BetQL network, and nobody does it better than you guys. Nick, where is there give us a game or two where the point spread doesn't follow the seeding, like where you might be able to pick an upset just because of the higher seeds favored?
Yeah, so the most stark example of that would be if people have their brackets in front of them, and I always do. So I don't know, but whatever.
It's wallpaper for you, yeah.
In the West region, which is the bottom left bracket, the 6-11 matchup is Clemson is the 6, and New Mexico with Richard Pitino and a couple sons of former NBA players, Mashburn and House in the backcourt for the Lobos. New Mexico is like a 2 or 2.5 point favorite in this game against Clemson. Clemson is like a fairly nondescript, like 8 power conference ACC school, all offense, no defense. And generally in the history of the tournament, these are teams that you want to fade in your bracket and teams that you'd like to fade betting, not just blindly. You need kind of like the right opponent to do that. But I never think Clemson is making a big run in this tournament. If you play it out 20 times, I don't think Clemson wins a couple games in this tournament. I think New Mexico is a deserved favorite there. I would definitely advance New Mexico in brackets. The other one would be South Carolina and Oregon. This is another 6-11. This is the bottom right of your bracket, the Midwest region, the Purdue region. South Carolina is about a 1 point favorite in this game, and the two schools have flipped a little bit. Like South Carolina opened one, Oregon then became a 1 point favorite. Now we've settled that the Gamecocks is a 1 point favorite. I like Oregon in the game. My co-host Ken Barkley loves Oregon in this game. Tournament tested coach in Dana Altman, who's been to a Final Four. Oregon won the Pac-12 tournament, got hot, beat Arizona, obviously on the way there. And South Carolina, like we see this with 6 seeds a lot, and this is why 11 seeds have a lot of success, is because 6 seeds are generally like these nondescript, like average power conference teams that get into the tournament, and 11 is like the hot Pac-12 champion with the great coach, and New Mexico, the Mountain West tournament champion. The Mountain West sends 6 teams to the tournament. So those would be the two I would look at. I have advanced New Mexico in my bracket and Oregon in my bracket.
Talking to Nick Costos. All right, Nick, I'm looking to the futures for a second. There's one future bet that really is sticking out to me. Auburn is 7th overall in the entire field to win the title, according to DraftKings. Does that mean that I have to be scared about that UConn-Auburn game in the Sweet 16? If you're looking ahead, why does Vegas love Auburn?
Well, Auburn's awesome. Auburn's really good. And that's actually that's the toughest matchup for UConn in that region, because everyone will say, well, Auburn's the 4 and Iowa State won the Big 12 and Illinois is the 3 and Illinois won the Big 10. As far as market rating goes, Auburn's the best rated team. And if Auburn and UConn do play each other in the Sweet 16, it's not going to be a huge point spread. UConn will be somewhere in the range of 3.5, 4, more than one possession, but less than 2. So it'll be a small point spread there. And I do think that if anyone out there, if you'd like to get UConn out of the tournament, before the Final Four, where they'd play North Carolina or Arizona, I think that's your chance to do it now. I don't think UConn will lose that game. I actually think Auburn's going to have trouble in the first round against Yale. Not lose to Yale necessarily. If you're doing a bracket, you have to pick Auburn. They're a 12.5 point favorite. It's not worth the risk of losing a point to everyone who's going to pick Auburn. But I do think Yale can keep this game close. The one bugaboo, Andrew, with Auburn is that they're a really deep team and they play a lot of guys, and a lot of guys play huge minutes, which kind of means that maybe Bruce Pearl hasn't figured out what his best lineup is. And generally, you want a short bench in the NCAA tournament if you're going to make a deep run, which means the best players are playing all the time. So I do think UConn and Auburn will meet. I do have Connecticut winning that game, and I think I would bet Connecticut to cover the spread when we get there.
Nick Costos, last one for you, Nick, from me. The two popular high seed upsets, McNeese and Samford. So McNeese taking on Gonzaga, Samford taking on Kansas. We know about the Kansas and their injuries. Do you like both of those, or is there one you like better than the other?
Well, is Will Wade cheating yet at McNeese like he was at LSU? Because if so, then maybe you like McNeese in that game. We'll start with Kansas and Samford. I did not like Samford at Open, and I think a lot of people did like Samford at Open. Buckyball, tons of three-pointers, really exciting team. I was kind of waiting, though, with Kansas, and this is both these teams in the Midwest region, the bottom right of your bracket. We needed to wait to see with Kansas. Their two best players were out towards the end of the regular season, didn't play in the Big 12 tournament game against Cincinnati, and Kansas lost that game by 20. So Bill Self comes out and announces that Hunter Dickinson, the former Michigan big man, he's going to play, but Kevin McCullough, Kansas's leading scorer all season, is out for the entire NCAA tournament, which means he's out for this game also. Now, I will say, Kansas is still a 7.5 point favorite in this game in the betting market. Now, you can bet Samford if you think Samford's going to keep the game close. I do think Kansas is still pretty likely to at least win this game against Samford, but they're definitely more ripe for upset now than they were 48 hours ago when we thought Kevin McCullough was going to play. So if I had to pick one of these upsets, I would take Samford. As far as Gonzaga and McNeese go, something to keep in mind. Gonzaga's overseeded in this tournament because BYU can't play on Sundays. That's actually a thing. BYU should be a 5 seed. Gonzaga should be a 6. This is accommodating BYU, so BYU doesn't have to play. Like Chick-fil-A, BYU's not going to play on Sunday. So Gonzaga probably not a traditionally good 5 seed here. I do think McNeese will cover against Gonzaga. Now, Gonzaga's still a 6.5 point favorite in the market, more likely to win, but I think McNeese will keep that game close, but make me pick one outright upset. I'll take Samford because Kansas's best player is out for the tournament.
Nick, I know it's March. I just want to remind you, Dan Campbell blew that game for the Lions against the Cowboys. Just want to get it on the record again, buddy.
Yeah, well, you are welcome to your incorrect opinions. I got way too much going on to get angry about that 2 months after the fact, 6 weeks after the fact.
Yeah, you can tell that the team really held it against him, considering they gave him a contract extension about a week ago.
Well, Perloff, you got bigger fish to fry now. You just overpaid your favorite team, a running back who's going to play in 9 games this season, buddy. So congratulations on that.
I got a bracket to fill out, Nick. I can't focus on these things.
Can't argue about Saquon Barkley today. Nick, enjoy the first day of the tournament. You and Ken Barkley together on You Better You Bet. Very special episode, I believe today and tomorrow, right? 9 to noon.
That's right. 9 a.m. to noon today and tomorrow. And then we have the national edition of the show Saturday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern time.
Awesome.
Nick, it's fantastic. You guys did such a good job after the brackets came out. Just got to say, that was phenomenal radio. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk soon.
Always love coming on. Wishing you and all your listeners, Minimal Sweats, Winning Bets, the absolute very best of luck. And I apologize. I don't know if my wife was down here cleaning or something, but my camera's like tilted to the side, and I've got like this weird like impressionist view here. I gotta like fix this before my show. But thank you guys very much.
We kind of like you at 3/4. It's
weird,
it's
right?
very arty. It's cool, and you made our show better, so thank you.
You got it.
Okay, coming up, we get back to the Maggie and Perloff March Madness bracket. That would be our bracket of one-hit wonders. A final region gets released in just moments. Don't move.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Okay, we've been doing our Maggie and Perloff bracket of March Madness one-hit wonders, Perloff.
Yep.
And it is time for the final region to be released. This is the Turn It Up region, and let's get going because we are short on time. The number 1 seed in this region, Rapper's Delight.
I said a hip hop, the hip it to the hip hop, you don't stop the rocker to the bang bang boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat.
That was a one-hit wonder from the Sugar Hill Gang, strong 1 seed, going up against 16-seeded I Touch Myself.
That sounded wrong, Maggie. I just want to say it for the record.
Let's continue. The 8th seed in this region, I'm Too Sexy.
Too sexy for my shirt. Too sexy for my shirt. So sexy it hurts. And I am too sexy for Milan. Too sexy for Milan.
That was Right Said Fred, goes up against the 9th seed, Tipsy by Jaquan. Maggie and Perloff's March Madness bracket of one-hit wonders. This is the turn-up region. The 5 seed in this region is Blind Melon's No Rain.
All I can do is read a book to stay awake. And it rips my life away, but it's a great escape.
And that 5 seed goes up against 12th-seeded Mo Bamba.
I'll be ballin' like the midnight pro. I'll be ballin' like my brother Mo.
The 4th seed in this region of one-hit wonders, Flavor in Your Ear. And that goes up against 13-seeded I Got 5 on It.
A lot of home court advantage there because it plays every Friday.
That is true. 6th seed in this region of one-hit wonders, the turn-up region. What's Up by 4 Non-Blondes. Wow, what a song. Goes up against 11 seed in this region, Jump by Criss Cross.
Again, protest. Criss Cross, I think, had a second song that sounded exactly like that one.
3rd seed in this region, this is strong, Gangnam Style by Psy.
Sexy lady. Whoop on Gangnam Style. Hey, sexy lady.
Goes up against 14-seeded Finally. Okay, the 7th seed in the turn-up region of Maggie and Perloff one-hit wonders, Let Me Clear My Throat.
So y'all might get with this. So y'all won't listen. Let me clear my throat. Let's go, y'all. Oh, say what? Happens to me. I hope
That is DJ Cool goes up against the 10th seed. I'm Gonna Be 500 Miles. Okay, and the second seed, last game in this region, Bittersweet Symphony, by The Verve. And the second seed, Bittersweet Symphony, goes up against 15-seeded You Get What You Give. And there you go. That is the final region in the Maggie and Perloff March Madness bracket of one-hit wonders. You can go to @Maggie and Pearl on Twitter and vote. Whoever you vote for, whoever wins, they move on.
Exciting. We apologize if any of those songs get stuck in your head.
It's a hazard of the one-hit wonders. Coming up, more in depth on this NCAA tournament on the men's side. Chris Walker's going to join us next. We also have more details for you on the Shohei Ohtani betting scandal that is unfolding now before our eyes. Don't move.
1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's a violin prodigy. Her full name is Maggie the Stallion. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
It's like a national holiday around here. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. First day of the NCAA tournament kicks off in earnest on the men's side, and we couldn't be more excited. We got donuts on the way. We got Chris Walker on the way. We've got final brackets to fill out, and just a quick programming note. If you want to join our bracket, our pal Nick in Texas does a great job. CBSSports.com. It's called Pearl Jam Season 3.
It is only a little disappointing. I've not complained once about us switching from afternoons to mornings. It is disappointing that I can't shirk my work responsibilities to watch NCAA tournament because I've been doing that my whole life. There's nothing better than pretending to work and actually watching games on your computer or calling in sick so you can watch games. The fact that we're actually going to be off after the show, but man, I have a date with my couch, Maggie. I will not be interrupted for many, many hours.
All right, well, let's get some more in-depth analysis. Let's go to Chris Walker, who we absolutely love, a former head coach Texas Tech, but spent many, many years an assistant coach in college hoops, has worked for both the big-time programs and the mid-major programs, and has a perfect perspective on this tournament. Chris, thanks so much for the time today. We love watching you inside college hoops on CBS Sports Network. How you doing?
How are you guys doing this morning?
Okay, here's one for you. We're doing great. But here's one for you. So last night, Coach, we saw Grambling play their way into the field of 64. And they're going to go up against one of the top seeds in this tournament, Purdue. And right after the game, you heard Seth Davis and others saying, this Grambling team looks a lot like Fairleigh Dickinson, FDU, who upset Purdue last year in the first round. What did you see? Should Purdue be on extra special high alert playing against Grambling?
Listen, Purdue has lost to double-digit seeds the last 3 tournaments. I've gone on record saying that Matt Painter cannot return to West Lafayette. He's going to have to find a new Starbucks if they lose again. I like this Grambling team. Their experience. The coach is from the Midwest, so he went to Wisconsin, Milwaukee, so he knows the Purdue program, shall I say. He's familiar. First time ever, Eddie Robinson and Willis Reed are shining down right now in Grambling State. You never know what could happen, Maggie and Pearl, but I think Purdue is a team of destiny right now, and that is a unbelievable. That would be a prognostication of mass proportion if Grambling State was able to pull this off. But certainly there is some drama around it for sure, just because of what Purdue has done the last 3 tournaments.
Chris, I saw you on CBS Sports Network talking about Virginia not looking good in sort of the play-in game. And maybe, to me, I took it as a reflection on the ACC as a whole. I'm looking at my bracket, and I do not feel good about that North Carolina 1 seed. Am I right about that?
Listen, you're right. I mean, the ACC has not looked great. I mean, think about it. You know, in our lifetime, the ACC has been the preeminent conference. You know, with all the great players they've had and great teams. And think about this: North Carolina. We're talking about they're a number 1 overall seed, and we're saying because of the way Virginia performed, and I think they should not have gotten in, that we think the ACC may be a weaker league, and at the end of the day, North Carolina is a number 1 overall seed. Yes, you should be worried, and the reason that you should be worried, and shout out to to Hubert Davis, who's done a tremendous job of coming back from not going to the tournament to being the team that won the league outright. I don't know how great Duke is. They're not the toughest team, even though they're talented. And North Carolina, even though they brought in Cormac Ryan and Harrison Ingram and Armando Baker, I think like he's been in college 20 years. And R.J. Davis is great. They did do great after losing Caleb Love. The thing is, for me, with Alabama being in that region, they'd have to face them in the Sweet 16. I think Alabama has enough of a high potent offense and enough experience to take down North Carolina. That game will be first 1 to 100.
Coach Chris Walker is joining us inside college basketball, CBS Sports Network. You're not worried about Alabama doesn't really play defense, Coach? You don't think that's going to bite them in this tournament?
See, think about it. I'm an analytics guy to the T, but sometimes the numbers don't say it all. What people don't know is Alabama is one of the best 2-point defending teams in that league. And what they do best is they score you in the second half. So my thing is the fact that they may not play a lot of defense, but in this tournament, notice now, Grambling State did come back last night. When you get ahead, and all these games are going to be really tight, no matter what the scoring averages are, and I know a lot of people may be betting and looking at, the line and all that, but at the end of the day, the margins are going to tighten. With this Alabama team, they scored 100 points 9 times this year. 9 times. The only team that scored second to that is Arizona. I think they've scored 107 times. It is very difficult with that much firepower. You're going to have to be in the 80s. Maybe they won't score 100. They lead the nation in scoring with 90 a game. Let's say they score 80. It's really hard for another team to score 80 in the NCAA tournament. They may not play a lot of defense, and I think that, again, that's only because they play so many possessions and they play so fast, and they don't have a legit shot blocker. But they have so many weapons, all right, and they have so many transfers that are just older kids. And Nate Oates is a terrific coach, and he just got a nice little bag, so don't feel bad about him. He's got a lot of money and a couple more years on his contract. But I just think this team last year, after having Brandon Miller being a number 1 seed, and what they did last year, this follow-up is a tremendous job by him. But I love the Crimson Tide.
Talking to Chris Walker, CBS Sports Network, former coach. All right, Chris, the SEC has a lot of teams here, and we're talking about Alabama. I asked you, which SEC team are you most confident in could go the farthest here?
It's interesting that you just said Alabama, and I have 3 SEC teams going to the Final Four.
Whoa!
Matter of fact, that's the last time that happened. I'm a Villanova guy. I'm still licking my wounds after we lost to VCU last night in the NIT, but we're usually a fixture in this event. But I have 3 teams going to the Final Four. That hasn't happened since '85 when St. John's, Villanova, and Georgetown went to Lexington. And the only reason, to be honest with you, that I have all 4 teams coming from the SEC is I have Baylor beating Alabama in the Elite Eight. So I have Auburn, I have Kentucky, and I have Tennessee and Baylor in my Final Four. Auburn losing to Tennessee in the Final Four. I think Rick Barnes, old Rocky Top, gets it done with Dalton Connect, who is a tremendous story in college basketball, the transfer from Northern Colorado, being the SEC Player of the Year, having a fantastic year.
Coach Chris Walker joining us. Is Dalton Connect the best player in this tournament?
That's a stretch. I'm going to give that to Zach Edey, who's the first 2-time, who will be, shall I say, the first 2-time back-to-back Player of the Year in the nation since Ralph Sampson. Since a long time ago, I think he's the most unstoppable force, and it produced the biggest story. You said Dalton Connect the best. I think he's probably the second best. I mean, he is very, very good. I mean, I'm just scrolling through my brackets right now. There are a ton of really good players, but Dalton Connect probably is the other than Tucker DeVries, he's another very, very good player. I like Tyler Kolek Hopefully he's healthy for Marquette. Another player that people don't talk a lot about, shall I say, who plays for the number 1 overall seed is Tristan Newton, who's the engine that makes UConn go. So there are a ton of really good players, but I'd say Zach Edey is probably the best.
Coach, I had a thought about Zach Edey yesterday, and, he's a 2-time unanimous All-American, and he'll be the 2-time Player of the Year, and he's got 2 tournament wins to show for it, and his team has lost to 3 double-digit seeds. He was a freshman for the North Texas one, so maybe we'll forgive that, but he's been the focal point of a team that's lost to 2 double-digit seeds in his sophomore and junior year. If he doesn't have a big tournament, can't you say his career was a disappointment?
I mean, he's going to be the 2-time player of the year, Naismith player of the year. So I wouldn't say individually it's a disappointment. Obviously, a lot of kids, think about it. I'm a big LeBron fan.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those guys, and you guys may shun me for this, that thinks LeBron was better than Jordan. But at the end of the day, I lose the argument based on championships, no matter what his numbers are. Same thing with Zach Edey. It doesn't matter if he was the player of the year twice. I'm sure he's going to look at his career and say, if we don't get to at least the Elite Eight. And Matt Painter as well. You had the most unstoppable force in college basketball for the last 3 of the last 4 years probably, and all you can show for is double-digit losses every single year as far as the seeds that they've lost to. So absolutely there's a ton of pressure on him because when you look back at your career, like even when I go out or when I'm around, people always ask. They never say, hey, how many points did you score in the Big East, right? Then they say, hey, I know you played against Alonzo and Dikembe or Derek Coleman and Sherman Douglas. They always say, how far did you guys go in the tournament? They ask that every single time. And I'm like, that's when you mumble because at the end of the day, that's all people want to know this time of year. Did you guys get to the Elite Eight? And you know what they don't know, Maggie and Perloff? How freaking hard it is. That's what they don't understand. So, yes, Purdue, with the type of team they have this year, if they cannot make a run, and you already prefaced this conversation by saying they're playing Grambling State. If they lose to a team from the SWAC, now, I might add, just for context here, the SWAC played against the Pac-12 last year, right, in a head-to-head tournament, and it was almost 500, right, because they get a lot of transfers with the transfer portal. They have a lot of older kids, and they basically paid 500 against the Pac-12. So you fast forward to this team that Dante Jackson has, and that team last year won 24 games. They just didn't win the AQ. You have a lot of those same kids back. They're not going to be afraid, and they very well could take down this team. And it would not be the story. It'd be a great tagline, and everyone would laugh. But I honestly think Matt Painter is a tremendous coach, and I make light of what's going on. But, again, and not to rail against Grambling State because I'd love for them to be successful as well, a great program from the SWAC. But I want Purdue to advance. Let's stop this narrative. But they got to take care of business, guys.
Chris, let me ask the same question for Caitlin Clark on the women's side. Does she need to get at least back to the Final Four to sort of complete this story that we've all been following so closely, or has she already established her legacy as one of the great stars of college basketball?
You know what? That's a tremendous story. Think about what she has done. And, I tell people, forget about the points. I mean, that is a fantastic thing. And here's the thing. She did it in 4 years. She could come back. She could score 4,000 points where it would be untouchable, to a degree. But she's done it on the assist level as well. I know for all of the TV stakes that's involved, everybody that has a stake in it, TV-wise, shall I say, that's something that we talk about all the time. Those ratings would go through the roof. Unfortunately, put LSU and Iowa in the same region. But think about it, if an Iowa-South Carolina matchup came, it would probably be one of the most viewed TV ratings, sports events, probably in a very long time. And that's one of the things I talked about is I wish that the women's Final Four and men's Final Four were in the same area because the men's, we'd never get to watch the women live. We always have, it's the same weekend and the games are happening in alternate days. But will it be a disappointment for a career? Absolutely not. What she's done is unbelievable, men or women, and she's that good. And I think that she's going to be that good in the WNBA, and she's going to be missed. But think about it, she is must-see TV. Right now, think about this. If you put a men's game next to a women's game and Iowa's playing, they sell out every single game.
that they play, whether it's on the road or at home. There is not one team that
right? Maybe Carolina, maybe Duke because people hate them so much. But other than that, and maybe Arizona in the Pac-12 because they're a great draw when they go on the road. What men's team, right, or what player on the men's side, even though we just talked about Zach Edey being the player of the year, I mean, they're not necessarily going to sell out if Zach Edey shows up. But when Caitlin Clark shows up, right, that ticket goes up, exponentially. She is must-see TV and great for the college basketball game, men or women.
Coach, thank you so much for the time. Chris Walker, Inside College Basketball, CBS Sports Network. Enjoy day one in earnest of the men's side of the tournament. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, Chris Walker.
I mean, there's no doubt about what he just said. Caitlin Clark is going to outrate any other individual on the men's side. I don't even think that debate is passed.
I think so. I mean, you and I will disagree about what she needs to do in this tournament. I mean, that's where you and I differ. Yes, the legacy is there, of course. Now, Chris made an interesting point that if she had come back for the fifth season, does she score 4,000 points and put herself totally out of reach in terms of the record book? But I think she does have to do something in this tournament.
Well, I think the reason for me, Pete Maravich is on every all-time college basketball list, and he didn't even make the tournament, I believe. He did nothing but lose. She at least already made her final game. I think that the Caitlin Clark story has already been written. So will we ding her if she loses? I don't think so. I agree with Chris. It's already this great story, and we're just excited for her in the WNBA. But you're tough. You're tough, Maggie.
Listen, I'm tough just because we're putting the highest possible accolades on her.
Right.
And so if this is, great story, it's like, no, we're talking about a transformative player. We're talking about somebody who, she's not the only one, but somebody who has completely, changed how we think of women's college basketball and where women can shoot from and the type of, attention that they can draw. I think, and they're a 1 seed. So it's not like I'm saying, hey, this is like weird abstraction. No, they're a great team. And I don't know if she goes out in the first or second round, which I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
If she goes out in the first or second round, I mean, that's a college career that ends with a whimper.
Right, but she's got this big showdown with LSU. If she loses that game, I think you could forgive her because LSU is still a very good team. And also, she'll be double-digit underdog against South Carolina again.
Right.
So I think that's the other thing. Like, we have this juggernaut on the women's side right now, which is also a big story.
Don't forget, LSU has to meet up with UCLA first, who's the 2 seed in that region. So we hope we get this LSU Iowa.
I know.
There's a couple of things standing in the way.
I just assume we'll get the story we want, which is LSU Iowa.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. All right, coming up, Thursdays, usually at the top of the hour, but we had to make room for Coach Walker. We were happy to do it. It's the multiverse of Maggie and Perloff. I'm excited about this one. This combines all the things we love about what ifs and what could be's in sports, and we apply it to the NCAA tournament. We'll do that next. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Exploring sports' biggest what-ifs and could-have-beens. Let's dive into the multiverse of Maggie and Perloff.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Wesley Financial. Stuck in a timeshare and want out? Contact Wesley Financial Group now and get a free timeshare exit information kit at wesleyfinancialgroup.com. All right, this week's Multiverse, we're always sort of tied into the news, so I think we got to go college basketball this week.
Yeah, college basketball, and we tie in a little NBA. So today's version of the Multiverse of Maggie and Perloff. What if LeBron James had gone to Duke?
Oh.
So Duke was on the final three finalists, if you believe one version of how LeBron tells this story. It was Ohio State, Duke, and North Carolina were the final three. He's changed this a couple times over the years. But
in 2022, he said it was Duke and North Carolina. He kind of canceled out Ohio State, so we'll see.
So if LeBron James had gone to Duke, that's the topic for the Multiverse today, one of sports' greatest what-ifs and what could-have-beens. Perloff, what is the world like if LeBron had gone to Duke?
Okay, so who were his teammates at Duke that year?
Okay, so
Did you have
this would be the 2002-2003 NCAA tournament. So this is a team that's led by J.J. Redick and Chris Duhon. You'll remember it's the J.J. Redick, Chris Duhon, Sheldon Williams version of Duke.
Right, and Dante Jones, one of the great dunkers in college and pro history. I think was on that team. Okay, so I'm going to say Duke wins a title. I'm not even going to focus on it. JJ and LeBron started an insufferable podcast 5 years earlier because they're best friends. And
We'd be on 20 years of that insufferable podcast.
Yes. So I'm not going to focus on the Duke side, but it have incredible ramifications in this multiverse. That means that LeBron is not the number one pick in the 2003 NBA draft. Cleveland, of course, picked LeBron, changed the fortunes not only of that team, but that city, you could argue. They get Carmelo Anthony instead. Now, Darko Milicic went number 2 to Detroit. I don't think Cleveland would have taken Darko. I think they would have taken Carmelo. I know that's a little bit of a stretch. You could just move up that draft. Darko, of course, won the all-time famous bust. So Melo goes to Cleveland, which means that Cleveland does not have their run of trips to the NBA Finals. That's not happening because Melo is just not as good as LeBron. So Cleveland continues on their hard luck road. Sorry, EJ, I know you love Carmelo. Now, that pushes LeBron to the 2004 draft. Now, that was a funny draft. Dwight Howard went number 1 to Orlando. We're going to have to assume, as great as Dwight Howard was, he falls to number 2 behind LeBron James.
Yep.
That means we have a real force in Orlando because the Magic front office was able to build a great team around Dwight Howard. If LeBron had the team around him that Dwight Howard had, Hito Turkoglu and all those guys, LeBron is actually winning titles in the East and does not have to go to Miami in his famous 2010 free agency. That means Orlando's a consistent powerhouse. There are no Heatles with Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. I don't even know if eventually there's no back to Cleveland because I don't think he's tied to Cleveland in that way. And I don't even know if they're Lakers. I think you are looking at the greatest Orlando Magic player of all time, LeBron James, and everything looks different. He might have more titles, believe it or not, because I think he would have been on a stronger team. I think one of the reasons LeBron didn't get early titles was problems with the Cavs franchise. He doesn't have those same problems. And we're talking really, really chasing Michael Jordan in that ring count. He is chasing him. I think he gets him if he went to Duke for a year. And not only that, he's more famous early in his career because I think he sort of lacked that. Maybe this is a stretch, but he would have been a must-see TV at Duke. Zion Williamson, must-see TV at Duke. He would have been a gigantic superstar coming into the NBA. He was already a big star. It would have been even bigger, would have added to the lore. I think that he has caught Michael Jordan in rings if he never had to go to Cleveland. So this would be such a huge decision for the history of the NBA.
It's a great what ifs, what could have been. That's the multiverse of Maggie and Perloff. We do this every Thursday right around this time. And today's question we're asking, what if LeBron James had gone to Duke? Duke was one of the final 3 teams that if he had gone to college instead of going straight to the NBA from St. Vincent St. Mary, that he would have gone to Duke. Now, that's a great multiverse. Can we just play this out a little bit, though? If Carmelo Anthony, who won a title at Syracuse at 2002-2003, let's say that LeBron wins that title.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so I believe, though, that Melo would have won the year before. So Melo still goes number 1. You're right, to Cleveland. I think he goes 1. I think Darko goes 2 to Detroit because Darko and Detroit, I think that was always fated to happen. I don't know why. They still won a title despite that bad draft pick. So that means Chris Bosh would go to Denver, and that means Dwayne Wade goes to Toronto. And it's kind of that as a little bit of a what if because I think Dwayne Wade ends up, if he doesn't go to Miami and get that first title early in 2005, 2006 with Shaquille O'Neal, does Dwayne Wade suffer the same fate as some other very talented Toronto Raptors? I know Bosh got himself out to go play with the Heatles, but the Vince Carters and the Tracy McGrady's and guys who were all-time great players but never could really never get themselves to a winning situation, partly because their careers in Toronto, no disrespect to Toronto, but would we have had Dwayne Wade saying, hey, everyone, come play with me? Now, maybe he would have said, come play with me in Orlando. So if we're doing this multiverse of Maggie and Perloff, a what if, what could have been, LeBron James goes to Duke. A couple other things. You're right. He would go to Orlando the next year. I think you're a little high on how good the Orlando Magic franchise would have been. Now, they made a finals. They made one finals with Stan Van Gundy. JJ Redick also on that team, right?
That team was sick.
Okay. The Orlando Magic had Shaq and Penny once upon a time, couldn't keep Shaq.
Yeah.
To think that they would have been able to keep LeBron James and LeBron wouldn't have also left to go to the Los Angeles Lakers or something else, I think is a bit of a stretch to me. I still think LeBron would have played on multiple teams. like he has now. Again, we're doing the multiverse. This is what if LeBron James had gone to Duke for a season and then gone to the NBA. I don't know. It would have pushed back his draft year 1 year, and he would have been, in theory, selected by the Orlando Magic in the 2004 draft instead of Cleveland in 2003. Can I give you another one here?
Yes.
Okay, so if in this multiverse, LeBron James goes to Duke and wins a title, we said the J.J. Redick, Chris Duhon, that iteration. He goes to Duke and wins a title. He comes into the NBA as a winner. Like Carmelo Anthony came into the NBA as a winner with a reputation of being able to win. I think it takes, quite frankly, a lot of pressure off of LeBron's early career of the, are you ever going to win, are you not? Now, I know Michael Jordan won in college, and he still had that pressure. But to win in the NBA, I don't know if LeBron feels this desperation, at least early on, that caused him to switch teams. Because he said in Cleveland, I don't want to be 30 years old with bad knees and no rings, and create the super team. I wonder if some of that pressure is mitigated because you're considered a winner because you won at Duke.
Absolutely. I mean, winning at Duke would have changed I think it changed everything for Carmelo Anthony. You know,
to win at Syracuse.
To win at Syracuse. Yep. So I think that's a good point. The other rap on LeBron, I don't know how it would affect this. Early in his career, he was afraid to take the big shot. Does that change with a year under Coach K? Probably not, but regardless, what's wrong with that Orlando Magic? I'm looking back at this Orlando Magic team. I think they might have been better than I thought. I mean, worse than I thought. They had Rashard Lewis, Hito Turkoglu, Jameer Nelson. You're telling me LeBron couldn't carry that team to a few rings?
But you're acting like the Orlando Magic or like the Boston Celtics of this like stable franchise, with this tradition of winning. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal bolted the moment he could.
You know, it would have helped our multiverse too. What if he had gone to the West? What if he had been a Clipper, was number 2 in 2004? What if LeBron had ended up in LA? Because you never know how the balls are going to bounce in the lottery. I think that would have been a totally different trajectory for LeBron too. A more competitive West, maybe bigger market. What if he had become a Clipper? Conceivable in 2004. They had the number 2 pick. They traded out.
Yeah, they traded to Charlotte, right?
Yeah. And by the way, what if Charlotte had gotten LeBron? Do they still have the Bobcats? Because I don't remember exactly what happened there, but that's not the team that's there now.
What if Charlotte got Dwight Howard? I mean, that also could have been great too.
Yeah.
He could have been a centerpiece and a focal point of that franchise. So, although Charlotte really likes guys from college. So this is, the multiverse of Maggie and Perloff. We sports what ifs and what could have beens. Today we're asking, what if LeBron James had gone to Duke?
The ultimate scenario, 2004, guess who sat number 3? The Chicago Bulls. Now that would have just been too much.
They took Ben Gordon, right?
What if LeBron James was in Chicago?
Trying to chase Jordan in Jordan City.
I mean, if he had gone to Chicago, that would be the ultimate sports story.
Oh, that's another one. If LeBron James had gone to Duke in this multiverse, how much does that rivalry get ratcheted up even just a little bit because of the Duke North Carolina thing?
Yeah, that's probably true. And also,
they're totally different generations, but still.
A lot of people hate LeBron now. For
they would.
Reason. Oh, God, would they hate him if he had what
that is the part where I will disagree.
Why?
I think if LeBron ended up on Duke loses a lot of his villain status.
Because LeBron was so loved.
At that time. Now he's very polarizing. At that time, everybody loved LeBron James.
Bill Walton's doing his high school games on ESPN.
He was the chosen one.
Yeah.
And he said all the right things. He did all the right things. He played the right way. I think similar to how Zion for like a year kind of had people kind of confused about what to think of Duke. If you had someone as likable as LeBron James at that time playing for Duke, I think that you have a generation of young kids who are Duke fans and that are now millennials that are adults that don't look at Duke as this villainous team.
Totally disagree, because everyone went right back to hating Duke after Zion left. But easy.
Zion ain't LeBron.
But it's easy to compartmentalize. I mean, there were a lot of big popular superstars at Duke, and you could still hate Duke.
None of those guys are LeBron James.
Yeah,
you can name
LeBron.
anybody.
But there were a bunch of really high picks. I mean, Elton Brand was the number 1 pick, and nobody did. You don't care. You still hate Duke. I disagree with that. And by the way, Zion wasn't LeBron, but he's one of the biggest things since LeBron.
Big superstar in college basketball, big icon as well. Not LeBron James.
Obama came to Zion. Yeah, you're right. But still, I think the hatred for Duke runs way deeper. It goes way back to before you were even here.
Oh,
so
for sure.
I think you could look at it one or two ways. Again, multiverse of Maggie and Perloff, what ifs and what could have beens in sports. We do this every Thursday around this time. Today we're asking, what if LeBron James had gone to Duke? Either LeBron changes things and Duke becomes less of a villain and less hated throughout college basketball, or the flip side, people hate him more because he was part of the Duke machine.
Definitely.
And we never get the decision probably where people turn on him because of how he left Cleveland, yet he comes into the league with the black mark or the black hat or whatever we say about guys who went to Duke.
By the way, he's basically a Dookie right now. He just sat at a table with J.J. Redick with 2 bottles of some fancy wine and told us how he's smarter than everybody else at basketball. He might as well have gone to Duke.
Well,
What's the difference?
I will say this. I think you get an NIL quicker.
Oh, you got to pay him.
Could he have been caught up in a scandal?
No, I think he would push it.
Yeah, I agree.
He would really push it. You know how vocal he is on issues. He would push the NIL and get paid.
But back then, did he have his voice? I mean, we're assuming he only stays for a year. Remember when LeBron somehow got like a Hummer car?
Yeah, well, his mom gifted him a Hummer car.
Yeah.
And we don't know how.
Where'd Gloria get that money?
How Gloria got it, but we just all moved on with our lives.
Well,
yeah,
enough people would have been in his ear.
Think
about
so?
it, I think.
I mean, Leon Rose was his first agent,
Right.
and no one's more powerful than him.
Yeah, but Leon Rose didn't do jack squat about getting college players paid.
That is true. The other thing I thought that was interesting, you guys pulled from. I'm very curious about the Dwight and Charlotte thing. I think that the Bobcats still exist.
I think that works.
That's
with
a
Dwight.
huge thing because Okafor was good, but he just wasn't Dwight Howard, and that's why that franchise didn't last very long. Also, Dwayne Wade not going to the Heat.
It's a huge what
And I'm gonna
if.
go back on my soapbox. Heat culture does not exist if Dwayne Wade doesn't go to the Heat. Doesn't exist.
By the way,
because they had not won a title at that point until Dwayne Wade got
No,
there.
I know, but you did have Pat Riley. If it wasn't going to be Wade, would have been someone else. I don't know if Riley. That's like a who's more to not blame. Who's more to credit for Heat culture? Is it Riley or Wade?
We've never seen Pat Riley build a champion without Dwayne Wade.
Well, the Showtime Lakers.
No, I mean as a general manager.
Oh, right.
As a general manager, he's never done it without Dwayne Wade.
Got pretty close with the Knicks, but right.
And he had Patrick Ewing.
No, I know.
and he didn't build that team. Dave Check has built that team.
Well.
So I think that Heat culture, we don't give Wade enough credit about how much Heat culture started with Dwayne Wade's buy-in. And if you don't have Dwayne Wade, you don't have that supernova. Dwayne Wade's a top 5 shooting guard of all time. Those guys don't just grow on trees. You're just going to find that guy somewhere else, and he's going to buy into the Heat culture they tried to establish as early as Dwayne Wade did.
Well, but
I think it's very
have a question,
unlikely.
though. Maggie mentioned in her version that Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady didn't work out in Toronto. If you team them up with Pat Riley, do they eventually win a title? I think there is something to the Riley factor. And also, there's not a no-brainer that they would have taken Dwayne Wade at 4. Dwayne Wade wasn't Dwayne Wade in that draft. He'd been in college a long time.
He was in the Final Four. He was
I know. That's what I mean. Like
the tournament helped him a lot.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He wasn't like that was early on, one and done. The fact that he'd been in college.
High school.
Yeah.
It was prep to pro.
Right.
At that
The
point.
fact that he'd already been in college weakened him in the draft. I'm saying it was a no-brainer that he was 4.
I would disagree with that. I think Dwayne Wade, he was elevated staying in college because that Final Four
It did elevate him, but I still
epic.
I still think teams were like, oh, they might have been interested in other players because he had hung around a little bit. I mean, that draft went high school, Europe, freshman, junior, and then he stood out a little bit.
But if I remember correctly, I don't have the draft in front of me. That draft was super top heavy. We talked
Yeah, it
about
was.
the greatest
It definitely
drafts
was.
ever, and what I remember was that it was a top 5. We really weren't going beyond that in terms of like, could someone made an idiotic choice and picked some freshman guy after that or high school guy? Sure, because the next freshman guy would have been TJ Ford. I mean, the guys that came after him were all upperclassmen.
Big time college.
Chris Kaman,
Yeah.
Kirk Heinrich, Michael Sweetney, Jarvis Hayes. Like, these are guys that were 4-year guys too. I can't imagine those guys getting taken over Dwayne Wade.
But who
no one
did
takes
the-
one idiot general manager.
Who
Okay.
did the Raptors already had a shooting guard? Probably that's the other issue.
So just again, this is the multiverse of Maggie and Perloff. You're like, why are they talking about the draft in 2003? The reason why is the multiverse is what if LeBron James had gone to Duke and all of the tentacles that would have changed in basketball history because by that simple fact, both college and the NBA. Pat Boyle is here with headlines. Good morning, Pat.
Hey, yeah, it's becoming all out Seoul slugfest in South Korea, and just because I don't want to see Perloff be right, hopefully the Dodgers don't complete this comeback. Game 2 of the Major League Baseball season, it was 9-2 Padres. It's now 11-8 in the top of the 7th. MLB debut for Yoshi Yamamoto ended in a short whimper. Lasted just 1 inning, got smoked for 5 runs on 4 hits. We do have a home run finally. All these 19 runs, only 1 home run. Mookie Betts, a 400-foot shot. Shohei Ohtani, by the way, 1 for 3 with a run scored and an RBI. But the off-the-field news is the huge news. Should we get a quick recap, the cliff notes?
Go ahead.
So, Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara, fired after it was learned that at least $4.5 million in wire transfers were sent from Ohtani's bank account to a bookmaking operation based out of Southern California. There's a federal investigation regarding the offshore sports book allegedly led by Matthew Boyer. And as the story unfolded, it was learned the interpreter, Mizuhara, was the one who incurred the 7-digit gambling debt. Spokesperson for Ohtani initially said Ohtani transferred the funds to cover Mizuhara's debts. Mizuhara issued a statement that was then disavowed because Ohtani's lawyers then prepared a statement which alleged, quote-unquote, massive theft. Right. Basically saying, his longtime friend and interpreter robbed him of $4.5 million, got his bank account info, wired the money to incur, cover his debts. So trying to rid Ohtani of any involvement in the matter.
That or told Ohtani it was for something else. Saying, hey, wire this money to Matt Boyer or whatever. No, he's not a bookmaker. He's buying me a house or something like that. Like, try to make it seem legit, and that would have been like robbing him too. Who knows how this thing's going to end up?
This thing's going to unfold over the weeks, months maybe. They're going to have to do a pretty thorough investigation, but it comes down to, was Ohtani aware that it's going to an offshore sports book? Because then that violates the MLB, MLBPA, CBA. Oh, and he has to be suspended.
There's a paper trail right now, if all this is right.
And if not,
that links him directly to a bookmaker.
And if not, which his lawyer said, no, that's not the story we're going with. He robbed you the money. Then his interpreter's going to get thrown in prison for embezzlement and wire fraud.
Definitely.
MLB's place in this is interesting right now because I forgive me if I didn't hear this, but it sounds right now that he's not under investigation yet. By Major League Baseball.
No, I don't think they've issued a statement yet.
Yeah, believe me, baseball's going to take their sweet time with this one. Considering he's the face of the league, they're not going to jump to any this will not be Roger Goodell with Tom Brady and Deflategate. No way. They're going to slow play this thing, and the feds are basically busted the bookmaker, obviously, and then the bookmaker and all the associates are like, well, look who's been betting with me.
Yep.
And they'll get around to it.
Yeah. Well, maybe the Dodgers should fall on their sword and say, let's get the suspension out of the way early so he's not gone for the playoffs.
Nah.
I mean, they don't need Shohei, obviously.
They're not going to do that. The baseball is going to wait weeks for this federal investigation to go down, and then once they get presented with the facts, then they're probably going to do their own investigation.
Yeah, so you're saying it'll go to after. They can't have him gone in the playoffs.
Well, I don't think it's going to be up to them. I think Major League Baseball is going to suspend Ohtani if
that's
it
what
comes
I'm saying.
to that.
Yeah, I know, but
I don't think
Major League
if the Dodgers say, hey, Roger Goodell, we'll suspend him now for 30 games, but let him play the playoffs.
But Manfred can't risk this going into the postseason because the Dodgers are probably going to be there. They can't not have Shohei there. They got to do it either before or after the season.
I think
he might be getting a year suspension.
Well,
is that on the table?
It might be generous to think this is going to get wrapped up by the end of the season. How long do these cases take?
Yeah, you're right. Maybe push it till after the season.
That's what I bet they're hoping.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting timing. They really do need him on the field.
And they'll just play with the cloud of this over them.
This team is not a team I would point to and say mentally tough.
That being said,
can overcome adversity. I would run away from picking them to win the World Series right now.
No, but that being said, they could trip into 105 wins without even breaking a sweat. They don't need Ohtani for that either.
Good luck with them trying to overcome all this and that cloud going into the playoffs. There's no way I would trust them with that.
And they could trip into a first-round elimination like usual.
And with Ohtani, they could still – and this is baseball. It doesn't matter who your stars are. Look at last year. I mean – anything could happen.
This nucleus, though, particularly, given how talented they are, I don't think it's just luck that they don't get it done. I think there's something inside their chest that doesn't allow them to show up when they need to.
I think it's Dave Roberts. That's my opinion. I think he's a good manager, but I think that just something's not clicking with a little bit of an edge in that dugout.
Well, if they're lucky, maybe Dave Roberts was also making bets. Just kidding.
First four games last night. The game between the 16 seeds, the Grambling Tigers beat the Montana State Bobcats 88-81 in OT. The battle of the 10 seeds, Colorado beat Boise State 60-53. Field of 64 is set. Madness starts in just under 4 hours. College football news. A few days ago, Ohio State running backs coach Tony Alford left the Buckeyes program to join none other than Sharon Moore in Michigan. The team up north steals Ohio State's running backs coach. Ryan Day was asked on Tuesday his level of concern that Tony Alford is now going to share Ohio State's game plans with Michigan.
The run game will look different. It just will. And that's a long time and a long journey to get to next November. So, I just think there's going to be so many twists and turns along the way.
How about that?
Well, Chip Kelly taking over as the offensive coordinator, so obviously things are going to look quite different, I would think, at Ohio State. And now you have somebody who's got a little intel from spring practices or even just a couple practices and then goes to Michigan with the info. Oof.
I've thrown out conspiracy theories in the past, and I guess I'll do one now. I think this was a long game.
What do you mean?
I think he was always in play to be in Michigan.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like I don't
believe that.
And
why didn't he stay longer? Is the question. Maybe he was afraid he was getting smoked out.
Can't get 100 on the test, right?
Yeah, he'll only stay for 2 practices and then leave.
Yeah,
it's like I got incomplete notes. I got day 1 install. Day 2 can't help you.
It's Ryan Day. Well, he wants to throw the ball 50 times anyway. Like 2 practices on the running game is probably enough.
And by the way, I think the world figured out Chip Kelly about 11 years ago. I don't even think you need. That's just a fact. Whatever happened to Chip Kelly, the genius, I don't know.
Real quick, NBA last night. Some of the scores we didn't get to. Warriors beat the Grizzlies 137-116. We could talk more about Draymond. Another scuffle with him and Desmond Bane.
Shocker.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler dropped 30. Heat go on the road and beat the Cavs 107-104. Some interesting J.B. Bickerstaff sound. Probably wait for next hour, talking about gamblers threatening his family.
Yeah, a little on the nose for all these. What is in the water today? Yeah.
Big sports betting day as we're about to kick off March Madness when most people...
Which is literally the biggest sports betting day of the year. Wow. What did we learn? I don't know. We'll get more on Shohei Ohtani in just a moment. Don't move, Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. We get more into the NCAA tournament in just a moment because tournament kicks off today in earnest, like a holiday for us around here. We've got the donuts. They've been delivered. Everything's all well and good. But, Perloff, we have this scandal in Major League Baseball that's exploding and unfolding in front of our very eyes, which is Shohei Ohtani's interpreter and a longtime friend and close acquaintance. This is someone in the inner circle for Ohtani, had racked up $4.5 million in illegal gambling, sports betting with a bookmaker in California, in Southern California. And Ohtani now, whether it was to cover for his friend's debts or some other reason, there is a link between Ohtani's personal bank account and paying off this this bookmaker to the tune of two separate $500,000 wire checks, basically, or wire transfers. And so this is the information we have now. We have no idea what's coming around the corner, but it's a huge story.
Yeah, I think we're in a bit of a dangerous area as a media here because unless they really, somebody's got to come out and explain what's going on, because right now you're left to your imagination to some extent.
Right.
Like it's very easy to assume the worst, which is that Shohei Ohtani knew exactly what the worst would be, that Shohei Ohtani was actually making the bets.
Right.
And that is not, right now that's not a huge leap, but it's irresponsible to say it's happening. That's the thing. Listen, whoever's running this show for Shohei's got to get his message out there very cleanly and succinctly right now. And that's tricky because obviously his interpreter is at the middle of this.
Yeah, communication has been an issue, obviously.
And I think the Dodgers and MLB also have to make statements sooner rather than later.
Listen, I don't know what that will do. Like, I don't know what that will do. We need the bookmaker got busted. And so that's why this whole thing is being investigated. And that's how the cover gets blown on the interpreter. This was not 2 days ago, Perloff. On Tuesday in South Korea, we're seeing the interpreter and Shohei laughing around in the dugout. He was still an employee of the Dodgers up until 2 days ago. And then on Wednesday, he gets fired after a mea culpa from the interpreter comes to the team and says, hey, I'm a degenerate gambler and I've racked up all these debts. And he gets fired. And then Shohei, then the story changes. Then the interpreter's walking back the story. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, Shohei didn't know anything about my gambling debts. He's been completely in the dark and I've been stealing from him.
You know, now that you say it like that, too, there is a chance that this story gets so confusing the public
turns away.
Doesn't really like. If I'm Shohei, I want to create chaos around this story. I want everyone to be like, wait, what exactly happened? And I think maybe the language difference will help him do that. Shohei can distance himself from this, and he will try. I'm telling you right now, he's going to have a crisis team. I'm assuming they'll hire a crisis team, or they should. And there's going to be all sorts of ramifications here. Shohei's going to say, like, I didn't know this, I knew that. I'll bet you the story changes 50 times.
Yeah, but sometimes just saying I didn't know is not a defense. You know, ignorance might not be a defense. If you're cutting somebody 2 checks for $500,000 each, it's reasonable to assume you would know where that money's going. I know it doesn't happen. I know people get scammed all the time, even by people close to them. I get it. But I think a court of law might tell you, hey, you're cutting checks for $500,000. You should know where that money's going.
Right.
You're an adult.
That's all fine. But don't you think that Shohei can at least create some doubt about what he knew?
Listen, if a guy comes out and said, I stole his passwords on his laptop, I got into his bank account.
I would think he already had his passwords because Shohei has shared his whole life with this guy.
Yeah, I think, that's where I might draw a line. I don't know. You can be great friends with somebody. Like, you and I are great friends. We work together every day. I would trust you. I would trust you with my bank accounts, but you don't have my bank account information.
Yes, I have some of your other passwords, and I apologize in advance.
Lululemon passwords, maybe?
What's that?
Pants? Lululemon passwords?
Yeah, that's who's been racking up the charges in my Lululemon account.
I'm not even kidding. I do know more of your passwords.
You do
than
know
you
a lot. Because I'm more than willing to share all of my online newspaper passwords.
But you've already made a leap. This person speaks for you as an interpreter. You've already made an incredible. You've handed him a lot of your life.
Sure.
You've put incredible trust into this person to speak for you. So he's already displayed how close they are. There's a chance it went much deeper. I actually think that Shohei's got to portray himself as a victim here.
No, he does, but it also seems a little beyond belief that he wouldn't know that this guy has at least some kind of gambling problem. I know that's hard because it's a sickness and
you're right.
People can hide it, but if you're that close to have your bank account information, don't you want to know if the guy's betting on the Horizon men's basketball tournament? Anyway, coming up, we've got our burning questions about the NCAA tournament.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's been on the TB12 method since he was 6. She's on her 3rd scotch. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
We're just a few hours away from tip-off of the NCAA tournament in earnest. Hey, welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. A lot going on today, Perloff, but as soon as those games tip off at noon Eastern time, we know the entire sports world takes a backseat for the madness of the tournament. And you are literally still filling out a bracket as we speak. We got a show to do.
I have a huge problem.
Okay.
I
Something that could have been solved before the show?
No, there's one pivotal game that is determining the bracket forever. To me, there's one game. There's a pre-championship championship. I could save it. The one game that everybody's bracket should be hinging on.
Well, tell us right now. What is it?
I think that if Auburn beats Yale, that's a big if. I think them against UConn, that they're the best chance to knock the Huskies out. Because otherwise, if the Huskies beat them, they beat Illinois. I have Illinois. And I just think that they're going to dominate the Final Four. I just think the history shows that the defending champion usually loses by the Sweet 16.
Okay.
Strong trend. Every year since 2007. No one has advanced to the Elite Eight as a defending champion. So if you're going to follow that trend, that means Auburn, very well-coached team, way high up in the Vegas odds as a potential champion. So to me, that is the showdown. All
right, so you got to make a decision. We only have a couple hours to go.
So I said on the show earlier in the week I'm going to Auburn, and I'm going Auburn. So that for me is really where my bracket either falls apart or ascends to winning.
Okay, EJ's got a couple questions for Perloff and myself. We just got one here from Perloff, but we can still go ahead and do this exercise. Hit us off, EJ.
All right, so let's get started with first number 1 seed to go out.
Okay, so Perloff, you just said UConn.
That's not my first number 1 seed?
It's not?
No.
Oh, gosh. Who's even more vulnerable?
The UNC Tar Heels. So Tom Izzo's Michigan State team, I've been reading a lot. They really didn't deserve to be a lower seed, a 9 seed. And they play Mississippi State, who I saw kick Dalton Connect's butt earlier. I like either of those teams to knock off North Carolina, who a lot of metrics are saying is the lowest number 1 seed out there and most vulnerable for upset.
So you have UNC losing in the second round.
I have them
to
losing in the
State.
second round.
Wow.
And another historical trend, number 1 seeds, there haven't been 4 number 1 seeds to advance to Sweet 16 in a while. So I have an early upset there.
Okay. Well, I'll just tell you flip side. I have North Carolina going very, very far. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. As far as the most vulnerable 1 seed, in my opinion, it's got to be Purdue. I mean, I understand that UVA lost to a 16 seed, and the next year they came back and they won it all. What are the odds that that's going to happen again? I would say extremely slim, not at some place that I would want to put my money. Plus, I have enough evidence Matt Painter is just not a good tournament coach. I don't think Zach Edey is a great tournament player, even though he's a great college player overall. I know that a lot of people are saying Gonzaga is a bit overseeded. I have Purdue losing to Gonzaga in the Sweet 16. To me, they are the first number 1 seed that's going to fall in this tournament.
I don't think that's an accident. I think Zach Edey, you saw it last year. The big men, you can keep the ball out of their hands. This is a guard-run tournament. That's what happened to Purdue last year. I think that's a great call.
Okay, what's our next question, EJ?
Okay, we talked about first 1 seed to go out. How about lowest seed to go furthest in this tournament?
Okay, for me, that is New Mexico. I have New Mexico going all the way to the Elite Eight. New Mexico is an 11 seed coming out of the West region. So New Mexico, coached by Rick Pitino's son, I have them losing to North Carolina in that Elite Eight. But here's the path for New Mexico. So New Mexico beating Clemson. I think most people believe that Clemson is just sort of an average team in a conference like the ACC. We're not even sure how strong the ACC is. So I have them beating Clemson. I actually have Colgate upsetting Baylor as one of my big first round upsets. Then New Mexico upsetting Colgate. That would have been 11-14. Then New Mexico beating Arizona. That's how I get New Mexico into the Elite Eight.
So for me, this was really tough because they're going to face each other in the second round. Should I go with McNeese State or should I go with Samford? So McNeese State plays Gonzaga, popular underdog pick, the 12 seed. Then the 13 seed, Samford, going up against an injured Kansas team. I am advancing both of them. And then I'm going to take McNeese State. I don't even know the team nickname, but I like whatever they're called, to advance to the Sweet 16.
One they're the Cowboys, but don't quote me on that.
Let's see. What are they?
Yeah, and then I have
Cowboys.
them. I actually have them losing to Purdue. Of course, that if that game does happen, I am awfully nervous about I think Purdue can lose to anybody or beat anybody in this tournament. But I have McNeese State as my darling team to advance. A 12 seed advancing, maybe not the biggest upset ever, but the fact that McNeese State is kind of a smaller school would be an unbelievable story.
No doubt.
Okay, so the NCAA tournament is always a star-making event. You don't necessarily always have to win to become a big household name. So, player to watch for you guys in this NCAA tournament.
Okay, I'm slightly obsessed. Keisei Tominaga from Nebraska. Now, I only learned earlier this week that Nebraska has never won a game in the NCAA tournament.
Unbelievable.
Even though I believe this is their 8th or 9th appearance, they've never won a game. So I think that changes. So I have Nebraska beating Texas A&M. I think that Keisei Tominaga becomes a star. We love shooters. We love guys who can, deep threes. He's got it all, and I think he will become one of the darlings of this tournament. Okay,
I'd like to say sometimes I'm a lifelong fan of this player. I'm a week-long fan of Jamal Mashburn Jr. in New Mexico. Gotta admit, don't watch a lot of New Mexico basketball. I'm not going to lie to the audience about that. But I loved Jamal Mashburn, both at Kentucky and in the pros. What a baller. Old enough to happily root for my favorite players as a young man, their kids. Jamal Mashburn in New Mexico, who you have going how far again?
The Elite Eight.
Yes. And also Eddie House's son is on that team as well. I got a Patino floating around. This is my adopted player of the tournament. Does he? And now, EJ, you follow this a little closer. Does Jamal Mashburn play like his dad? Any knowledge to this? He's he's a little smaller.
He's a little smaller, but similar in that, you're not talking about a above the rim guy. You're talking about
guy,
a bucket getter who's going to beat you in isolation, beat you with his mind, beat you with his skill set. Very, very good player.
14 points a game this year. He had been up to 19 and 18 the 2 seasons before that. They have a much better team this year. That'd be a great story.
He was a really good recruit too. Okay, so let's get to
Final Four?
Final Four
All
picks. Right. Where are we going with the Final Four?
I'm happy to go first here.
Please
Perloff.
do.
All right. Well, I have UConn coming out of the East because I think they're going to buck the trend of the defending champ not getting past the Sweet 16. I have them facing North Carolina on one side of the Final Four. Then I have Tennessee facing Kentucky on the other side of the bracket. My final for you is North Carolina facing Tennessee, and your champion, North Carolina.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to go with my fandom here. Lifelong Houston Cougars fan. Yeah. I'm going to advance them in the South. Midwest, I'm bucking the trend. I think Purdue had to learn their lesson. They have to win this game. My only logic is they can't keep doing this. West, I got Arizona. I think it's a weak bracket. I think Zona, is, from everything I'm reading, is not really a strong number 2. But unless Baylor knocks them out, I think they're okay. I don't like North Carolina. And I have, as I mentioned, Auburn beating UConn. But then I have Illinois beating Auburn. Then I have Zona beating Illinois. And then I have the Houston Cougars knocking off Purdue. Cougars, Kelvin Sampson, Titletown, USA.
Wow. All right. There you go.
Houston loses in the second round. One of those two options.
You were just giving me shades of Steve Kornacki.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so jealous of Kornacki. I could be Kornacki. I could dress like him. I don't know.
You guys got the same glasses.
Yeah, his playoff picture thing is so overrated because anybody can read the playoff pictures. Anyway, I can wear khakis. This is a tough bracket, though, Maggie. I got to tell you, It feels like upsets are really coming, and they're coming fast. I could see people ripping up their bracket at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
And that's why we love it, and that's why I don't want this to change. So that's why expanding it to 100 teams or taking away the automatic qualifiers from the mid-majors, please don't change this thing. Like, please, college football, you guys, or college sports, you guys screw up so much. Please don't mess with this. We already love it. And you know, we have this urge in our country and our society. It's like if it's been one way for a long time, well, then we've got to review it and we've got to find out where the inefficiencies are, and we've got to make everything bigger, faster, stronger. How about this? We like this thing. You guys make billions of dollars off of it. Can't we just keep it the way it is?
I think expanding from 68 to 90 or 100, I think it's a marginal difference, honestly. Going from 4 to 14 in college football is a total game changer. We're not even going to notice. It's not going to affect anything. Really, for my day-to-day, if they go expand the tournament, I just don't think it's going to take any enjoyment because you're still going to have the drama the last few weeks of the tournament. I mean, what's going to change?
Well, because I think what they're trying to do is just get more of these mid-level schools in from – the bigger conferences. Like, I don't think it helps with your Cinderella-ness, right? Because let's take a couple of the, sort of average, if you will, teams from major conferences. We talked about Clemson. Clemson's never going to be a Cinderella. They're going to be a team that they're a 6 seed in this tournament. So you just get another team from the ACC. They win. I'm sorry, I don't think there's going to be really a lot special about it. I'm just using Clemson as an example, by the way. I know we're on in South Carolina. It's not that I'm disparaging them. It's like teams like them.
Do you mean win in the first round or win the whole thing?
No, if it's more teams like Clemson and NC State's, and I know NC State has a long basketball tradition. I'm just saying the teams that are middle of the pack in the bigger conferences, I don't think adds to the allure of this tournament. The allure of the tournament is the underdogs, the upsets, and the Cinderella.
Okay. The reality is I don't think any of that's going to go away. And the funny thing is a mid-level ACC team is probably going to end up losing to the Wagners of the world just as often. Probably going to have more of these underdogs because you're going to get more of them in too.
I don't think so. See, I don't think this is we're going to have more of everything. Not when you want to take away automatic qualifiers also from mid-majors. And I don't think that's why coaches like Tom Izzo are floating these things out. Do you think Tom Izzo wants more double-digit seeds like Middle Tennessee that he can lose to in the first round? No shot.
Well,
they want to do this to get more teams from the big conferences in.
I mean, look at this year. McNeese State and Sanford are not in the 15-16 line. I think there's a reality here. Drake's a 10 seed. I think that you can be not a major program and still get a high seed. I think everyone.
But they want to change that.
Yeah, no, but there's still all those teams are going to play earlier and knock some of them out. But the teams that survive that are going to then be very competitive. I think you're going to have just as you're saying you're going to have less underdogs because there's more teams in the tournament. That's not really how it's going to end up happening.
But that's what they're saying they want. They want just more Big Ten teams and more ACC teams and more SEC teams.
Right.
It's not more fun.
The reality is, but there will still be more. They're not going to take away any of those fun teams. You're adding another 30 temes.
Right, but if you take away the automatic qualifiers, I mean, it's just so easy for the big conferences to come in and stomp out the little conferences.
Right, but I think you're going to have a lot of those little conference teams are going to take those 32 spots as well, and they're probably you're going to get worse and worse big conference teams. You're going to get their butts kicked by the mid-majors. You're going to get a bottom half of the ACC team is going to get in now, and they're going to get killed by a Samford or something. That's just what's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Okay, but I can get Samford playing Kansas. Like, I'm cool with that. I like that.
Yeah, you're going to still have that.
But
I mean, Samford would,
I don't
in
think
a field
that's
of
the
100,
goal.
Samford would be in there too.
No, because I think that what coaches like Tom Izzo and want to get rid of these automatic qualifiers, what I think they want is they want Samford to get taken out by
St.
Texas.
John's.
St. John's or
some
something like that.
didn't make it.
Yeah, I mean, Samford would probably have a great chance in that game. They were 29-5. They would have gotten in close to an at-large bid anyway.
I know, but they, again, like, I think they want some of these smaller teams, they want to thin them out. And then they want the more teams from the big conferences to get in for more money for those schools and conferences, right? This feels like a little bit of cronyism that's happening in college basketball, and that's why. And then I think the other part is they want to thin out the herd of teams that they don't have a lot of tape on guys that they don't have a lot of experience playing against that could possibly come in and make them look stupid.
I think Tom Izzo said the uncomfortable truth that a lot of big time college basketball figures feel, which is, how much do we want to see these smaller schools advancing deep into the tournament?
Right.
When you add these other teams, you're just making their road harder. This does not make the road harder for Kansas. Does not make the road harder for North Carolina. They will probably get buys, or they're going to be starting with even worse teams than they already start with. If you put those teams and say, okay, Stanford, in order to get your shot at Kansas, you got to beat some other Power 5 school, or you got to beat some other good mid-major. Maybe you got to beat Indiana State, a team who didn't get in, but we know is damn good and probably should have been in it. Definitely should have been over that clown Virginia team. Like, they know that by making that road harder, you'll just get less of those teams deeper into the tournament, which is what they want.
And that's what
Nominally
Perloff
less.
wants.
Nominally less.
I don't think it's nominally less.
I wait till this plays out. First of all, here's a question for you, too. Are we ever going to get the Blue Bloods back again? Is maybe NIL help this, but I mean, the fact that Duke's a 4 seed and Kentucky's a 3 seed here, that just seems the direction of the sport. I just don't think that we're going to have. I mean, this sport had constants. They had Duke, they had Kentucky, they had North Carolina, and now you really don't know year to year. I'm not sure why, but you can't count on them. The coaches have changed over too.
I think the last part is why we're seeing this. I know Bill Self is technically still there, but this season's a little weird for them. They've had some injuries and they've underachieved. I think the problem is that these Blue Blood programs have been revolving door coaches. Indiana revolving door, UCLA revolving door. Duke has a new coach who we have no idea how John Shire is going to be. He's inherited, a castle. Like, can he keep this thing up? We have no idea. And the problem is, back in the day, while yes, you got a great continuity with these players staying, you also had Bob Knight staying someplace for 30 years. Coach Krzyzewski staying somewhere for 30, 40 years.
Yeah, Boeheim.
That helps Boeheim, Calhoun. That helps a lot when it comes to keeping those Blue Bloods truly blue.
Also, these SEC football schools are intruding on the basketball schools that you cannot avoid. Like, why are these football schools all of a sudden amazing at basketball? That's not a good trend for the sport either. Nobody wants to see South Carolina in the Final Four in basketball. I'm sorry.
Think about it.
On the women's side, yes, but not the men's side.
Think about it. Next year, the SEC and the Big 12 are both going to have 16 teams. The Big 10 and the ACC are both going to have 18 teams. And this is because of football.
Yeah.
We get it. And because the Pac-12 went away. But 18 teams in the ACC, how many are you going to get in the tournament?
Well, I mean,
do 8 deserve to be in? I don't think so.
It's amazing to me how much better the SEC is than the ACC now. And honestly, I think that's part of the reason that people are not into this. We need Duke. Maybe it's my age. I need Duke, North Carolina to be there. And that's why I'm so fired up about NC State. It reminds me of when I was a kid and they were there every year. It's interesting to me. The sport has changed drastically. I mean, drastically
it is,
in 5
but
years.
North Carolina's a 1 seed, and I have them winning it all. Duke is a 4 seed and could very easily make it to the Final Four. So, I mean, not easily against your Houston Cougars, but again, like, they're still here. I think that we've written off. I think we've written off just because it looks a little different, because some coaches might be different. And, the sport is figuring itself out in terms of NIL and the G League. Just because there are some changes now doesn't mean we have to rip up the whole system and change everything to add, 50 more teams or whatever and make this thing wildly different from what we all enjoy.
Well, Kansas, we had
It's
a couple
alarmist.
years ago. Kansas, North Carolina. That's such an exception in today's age. I mean, you're more likely to get a Baylor Gonzaga or Virginia Texas Tech. I mean, these are different matchups than college basketball 20 years ago. It's really going to be hard. I think we're going to see more and more upsets and more mid-majors advancing.
And that goes back to the conversation we had a little bit a couple of days ago. Is there space, though, for new Blue Bloods? Because you mentioned a Baylor Gonzaga national championship. First of all, that championship was very anticipated and well watched.
Also, Perloff doesn't consider UConn a blue blood.
Right, but my thing is though, like, can Gonzaga or why can't they be?
Can they be new blue bloods?
Yeah, why
great
can't
question.
Baylor be Syracuse or like? Yeah. And that comes with, again, coaches and programs being built and being able to last a long bit of time.
If UConn repeats, they become much more must-watch TV down the road. You're right. Things do change, but I don't think so.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. You're welcome to weigh in. Also, we have more details on the Shohei Ohtani and his interpreter, the betting scandal that is now rocking Major League Baseball. We get to that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Back on Maggie and Perloff. We'll have a one-hit wonder bracket update shortly. Meanwhile, people are getting on me because they think that I'm old school at college basketball just because I want to see Duke play North Carolina in the final every year. Actually, that wouldn't be. I just think it's so funny. I'm looking at my bracket and just Purdue. Not that this is going to happen. If it's Auburn, Arizona, Purdue, and Houston, I mean, come on. Give me some.
That's your Final Four.
It is right now. I have another hour.
Okay, well, I have UConn, North Carolina, Kentucky, and Tennessee, so I did go a little more traditional.
It's not happening.
Well, we'll see.
You're probably closer than me, but you're not going to get all four. Nobody does that. You'd have to be a...
Believe me.
Joe Lenardi's not getting all four.
I do not expect
I think it's going to be mid-majors, and we're going to be a little turned off by it.
Big Dave is our pal in Kentucky. Dave, how you feeling?
Hey, I'm doing great. Listen, you ain't going to believe who I just ran into at Home Depot.
Who?
Rob Manford. He was looking for a big-ass broom to sweep some crap under the rug.
You know what? You should have bought it for him because I think he's going to have to spend a lot of money on lawyers pretty soon.
I thought it was John Calipari who's looking for a new job.
Bite me, McLovin. Hey, y'all know I'm a Dodger fan too, right?
You're a Dodger fan? I didn't know that.
Didn't know that.
Well, enjoy Ohtani now because if a couple of details of this break differently, he could find himself in jail.
Yeah, there better be some hard evidence before MLB comes down on him. Yeah, people ask me all the time, like my Cowboys thing, say, well, you're from Kentucky. Why in the world are you a Cowboys fan? Well, the thing about it is, I grew up in the 70s. And back then, there was only a couple of three, nationally televised sports, like football games a week. Cowboys got a lot of shine, same way with the Dodgers. And ironically enough, McLovin, I was a huge 76ers fan growing up.
Yeah, baby.
Dr. J was my dude.
Yep, that makes sense. And by the way, you're not alone in that Cowboys thing. That's why I think the Cowboys are the most popular team because of that exact setup you said.
Yep, a lot of exposure, more exposure probably than about anybody else. So, hey, here it is. March Madness, baby. It's a Kentucky time of the year. I got to tell you, fellas, I'm feeling pretty darn good right now.
Dave, I picked them to go to the Final Four. Who says I'm not loyal to the Bluegrass State?
Bless you, my child. I'm with you. I've actually got I got UConn, Carolina, Texas, and Kentucky in the Final Four. Texas,
you're not hearing a lot about this Texas team. You really like them?
Oh yeah, they're sneaky good. Rebound the ball well, play good defense. Yep, I'm pretty good on them. I think they're a sleeper. Tennessee, man, is tending in the wrong direction. They're trending in the wrong direction. 2 consecutive bad games. We mauled them. They got embarrassed in the first game of the SEC tournament, as did we, but don't want to talk about that right now. I'm big on NC State, man, worries me. I got NC State making it through the first game, and they really worry me in the second round.
Okay, but Dave, hold on. There's some numbers behind this that teams that get hot late in their conference tournaments, it doesn't actually help them in the tournament. Now, we'll see, and NC State's a good example of it. Dave, it's great to talk with you. Thank you. Enjoy the first couple days of the tournament. Big Dave, the warden, he's
worse
best.
than EJ. EJ's a Gonzaga, Miami Mets fan or whatever he is.
Yeah, Jets.
And Dave's going Dodgers, Cowboys, Kentucky. Some other teams.
And 76ers.
And 76ers.
Well, Pat Boyle also has a lot of weird ones. Pat, you're a Brown.
I'm no longer a Browns fan.
You're off.
I've
been off the train for well over a year now. Yeah.
Okay. So who'd you pick up?
So no, I'm what's his name right now with the NFL hat.
Hey, Rob Lowe with
Rob
the NFL
Lowe.
hat.
I'm like Rob Lowe.
NFL
Good
fan?
place to be.
I'm a fan of whatever team wins money for me on Sunday.
There you go.
But no, Knicks Islanders. Knicks the big one. Nothing will ever match the Knicks fandom.
There you go.
Islanders. Cubs is a little out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they're on TV a lot when we were kids.
And then Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is a national team. I get that.
And let me defend my fan base because fan with Perloff taking crazy shots. I'm all New York when it comes to pros.
Right.
It's just two colleges. Look, this is not a college town. So, and I actually do root for St. John's. I root for St. John's and Gonzaga in college basketball. But
you're picking geographically diverse teams. You can't go Spokane, Washington to Miami, Florida.
Why not? People pick Duke and Notre Dame. Duke
You
basketball and Notre Dame.
You do.
Let's go to Kevin, who's in Oregon. Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Good morning. Hey, I was listening to Perloff. He reminds me of that old man who lived across the street from us. When our baseball would go in his backyard, he would yell at us. Seriously, we'd walk across his lawn and he'd be screaming at us. Like, what the hell? Why can't things change? Why can't there be new blue bloods?
Kevin, did you watch the San Diego State Florida Atlantic game last year?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we all did.
I don't think the numbers show that.
Well, okay, but Kevin, thank you. The thing about the tournament, and I think why we like it, is because it does mix the diehard sports fan with the casual fan.
Right.
That's why the brackets are so great.
Right, but
everyone can participate.
And okay, this all sounds good, and I do sound like an old man shaking his stick or a jerk here, but you know that the ratings are affected when these mid-majors get all the way. That's just you can't argue with that. You telling me that everybody sat there to watch Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, that's just not reality.
Well, here's one thing. The ratings can be one metric you can use to, see how popular something is.
That's a pretty good metric.
Okay, or how much are the networks paying the NCAA for the rights to this tournament? Because that's not going anywhere. It goes up and up and up.
I don't know. Because, first of all, we're in a bubble on sports rights, and I do think the popularity matters. We're talking 10 years down the road. I'm not sure that they keep getting it. If the NCAA tournament keeps on slipping a little bit from its peak in 2015, Duke, Wisconsin had 30 million watch the title game. Now it's down to 9 million. This is not good.
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. It's not just because FAU made it to the Final Four.
Yes, but that's part of it.
By the way, just a little update if you've been listening along for the show for a while. Perloff called this when it was the bottom of the second inning.
Yeah.
Somehow the Dodgers were going to attempt to come back here on San Diego. It's the top of the ninth inning, and lo and behold, this game is now a one-run game. Pat Boyle will have the details in just a moment.
And the Dodgers will go celebrate by going to the casino.
Casino's safer than what they've been doing. Not them, the interpreter for Ohtani. Good morning, Mo. How you doing, dude?
I miss you guys. I'm great.
Oh, thanks for waking up early to catch us today.
Yeah, I'm traveling right now, so I'm kind of cheating the system. I'm on the East Coast.
Nice.
I'm giving a call. I wanted to discuss the tournament and then Ohtani here. First of all, to me, the way that the tournament is set up and the way NIL works, I certainly see where the Blue Bloods are going to always be there. But I can see a precedence where this is going to continue simply because NIL has no boundaries. And so because basketball only has 5 people on the court, any star, any one person who transfers makes a big difference. And so the formula for mid-majors are senior-laden teams with experience that make a run. Well, if you get that and then you get one of these guys to transfer, all of a sudden, boom, that's all you need, and they're right in the mix. And then, of course, with the Blue Bloods, you always have NBA-level guys that are one-and-done, two-and-dones, and they're gone, so they're turning over. They can easily slip down because of that gap is closed just like that.
Yep.
Because NIL doesn't care about, Alabama.
Your tradition.
The richest school, right?
Right.
Like Stanford has more money. UVA probably has more money than Alabama does, right? They just have more pros. So the NIL money will fly off for anywhere, and if they go, that closes the gap. So I can see where that becomes an issue. Look, as a Braves fan, I can't be more thrilled to see this crap with Shohei because the way the Dodgers pulled that mess off and they were able to get this guy. How do you get a $700 million player for $2 million What do we do? Like when I was a kid, we had layaway. Like you got this guy with layaway.
They definitely did. It was $700 million over 10 years. He deferred $680 million of it.
Dude, that is such BS, and I don't understand how the players' union allowed that crap. Like this is a bad precedent for one of the richest teams in all of pro sports. How?
Mo, I think the players union, Mo, thank you. It's so good to hear from you, dude. Even though you're traveling, I'm so glad you could catch the show.
I think you could say even though you're a Braves fan.
No, it's fine. Yeah. I'm used to that. I think that the players union was never going to take on Ohtani because I think they still want these big long-term deals. Like you'll see, we were criticizing Scott Boras now lately has not been able to get some of his marquee free agent clients these massive long-term deals. I think the players union is like, you want to give us $700? We don't care if it takes you 30 years to pay. We just love those figures.
I mean, what's the worst contract in baseball history? I actually don't know if it is, but Bobby Bonilla's the famous and move on. But Bobby Bonilla's long-term contract is a joke, right? So
all the deferred money. Yep.
Deferred money can work out really well. Yeah, and also too, you're right. As long as the money comes in, did you think the union was going to come after the Shohei deal? Because it is a huge $700 million, something to blink at, even if it does take a while.
No, I think the union likes it. I think the fans were just like, wait a minute, what the hell? Meanwhile, that's the least of Ohtani's problems. Ohtani and his interpreter and friend have now been caught up in an illegal betting scandal. The interpreter is the one with the $4.5 million in gambling debts. At first, the story came out that Ohtani floated, at least we know, $1 million in two different $500,000 wire transfers to an illegal bookie to try to cover his friend's gambling debts. Yep. The story then changed to Ohtani had no idea about the gambling, and now this has turned into a massive theft issue. That interpreter has been fired from the Dodgers, but that was yesterday. So this story first came out I think they first busted this guy in October. I mean, it's been a while. I think the two wire transfers are from January, and they just fired him yesterday. So someone's been covering for somebody. Pat Boyle is here. He's got more on this story. Good morning, Pat.
Yeah, on the field, last chance to win. Not only for the Dodgers, that's what Ohtani told his interpreter last week. Second and final game in Seoul. We have a home run.
Darn.
Sorry. 3-run home run for Manny Machado, and now the Padres have put a little more distance in between this thing.
It's now 15 to 11. So Perloff,
not done yet.
I mean, look, I give you credit, man. You call it 9-2. You said they're going to win this game, and you probably, if you put $5, it's probably like plus 1,200, plus 1,500 at least. So at least you came within striking distance, and who knows? We have 26 runs. We might be in store for one final incredible inning, but it is 15 to 11 now with a Machado 3-1 home run. One of the main stories was
by the way, we're going to get to Trevor Hoffman in the ninth. Trust me on this one. Is he still there?
He's in the crowd.
Yoshi Yamamoto lit up like a Christmas tree in his MLB debut. 1 inning, 5 runs on 4 hits. Mookie Betts has a home run for L.A. Now Manny Machado's got a home run for San Diego. I almost said San Diego. Little anchor man.
San Diego.
I mean, I don't, you hit on the Ohtani stuff. I didn't.
It's just wild. It's wild. And now Ohtani, listen, you're in South Korea for this, great, selling the game and all of that and this early opening day. You come back to the United States, it's going to be a lot of cameras in your face. And I know he doesn't like to talk to the media, but at some point, whether it's going to be with a new translator, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But you can't just hide from this one. It's going to be very tough. He's going to have to address some of this.
I'll be honest. Like, I know this is a very serious accusation, but I watched Barry Bonds just be dragged through the ringer with questions, cameras, scrutiny, people throwing syringes at him on the field, and watched him go out there and smack home runs around like it was nobody's business.
Oh, listen, Ohtani could still have an MVP season, but he's going to have to come back and answer some questions. You can't just use the language barrier to skirt something, something.
For sure. My point, though, is I think he better play that way because we've been saying this guy is the greatest player of all time. That he should win every MVP award, that he's above reproach, that he's this unbelievable player. Well, the best player I ever saw faced some great scrutiny and was still hitting 400 home runs with like a 8 million on base percentage.
Yeah, but it's 1,000% different.
Why is it 1,000% different?
Barry Bonds was cheating, and he was doing immense amount of steroids to do that.
Well, first of all, we don't know what Ohtani's doing. But second of all, it's about It's about facing adversity. It's forgetting about the steroid part of it.
No, because no one's saying Ohtani's good because he floated this money. People are saying Bonds was untouchable because he was doing steroids. No one's saying Ohtani's such a great player because he's floating $500,000 for a friend.
But
it's totally different.
No, but there's still a cloud of suspicion, cloud of things that he has to overcome. I don't care if you're steroids or not. I watched Alex Rodriguez crumble under that kind of pressure. So it's not for everybody.
Yeah, but are you kidding me? If it's a 3-2 game in the 8th inning, Alex Rodriguez would crumble.
That's my point.
But he's never could handle any pressure anyway.
That is my point, though. You're making exactly my point. Shohei Ohtani's never played in big games. He's never been in this situation. So, no, I don't want to hear an excuse that he didn't play great.
There's no excuse. He'll be fine. It's baseball. You just go up there and mash.
Okay. All right. When Ohtani's hitting 220,
he's an international
I'm gonna
superstar.
come back
That
and say
guy,
Perloff doesn't matter.
He's way above all this.
Perloff would be
Ohtani's an international phenom. He doesn't care about
I'm clipping this.
Perloff would be a tremendous baseball coach. I'm 0 for 3, coach. What's wrong? Nothing. Just go up there and mash.
I'm clipping
This is apparently what Bob Gibson used to tell his pitchers.
Yeah.
Go throw effing strikes.
I
did it. You do it.
I told the story the other day because LeBron was saying that basketball intelligence is the only reason that anybody's any good. Lenny Dykstra, in the opening chapter of the book Moneyball, he didn't know who Steve Carlton was in spring training. Billy Bean's like, this is Steve Carlton. He's the greatest pitcher ever. Lenny goes, well, never heard of him, but I'm about to stick it to him right now. And went out and was a superstar immediately. You don't need a brain to play baseball. Just go out there and hit. It's easy. He's going to be fine.
I had Lenny Dykstra in a broadcast booth one time, nearly projectile vomit on me.
No, not a surprise. By the way, you know who's psyched today? You know who's so psyched about this story? Yamamoto. $325 million, 5 runs, first inning. I mean, that is a bad debut. I think we're underestimating the impact of that.
By the way,
who's in a worse spot? Ohtani, Yamamoto.
Quick side note in honor of Ohtani, I made a couple bets today. So I bet the under on runs 8.5. So
sorry about that one.
And that was done in the second inning. Last first 4 games last night. The game between the 16 seeds played out as it would in the jungle. The Tigers beat the Bobcats. That's how that would finish, right?
Yeah.
Bobcat's not killing a tiger.
They're scrappy.
It might be a big brawl.
I don't know enough about the differences between a bobcat and a tiger. They're just big
Bobcat's
felines.
smaller. Obviously, tigers.
Yeah, and a tiger, it's not like a tiger's not fast enough. Anyway, the Grambling Tigers beat the Montana State Bobcats.
Are you one of those guys who fills out a bracket based on the toughness of the mascots? That's a strategy.
No.
Where do you put the Hatters? Is that tough?
Where do you put the
If you put a hat on a Tar Heel, you limit the effectiveness of the horns.
Well, I know Mad Hatter, the Batman villain, was quite formidable. So if I'm going with that, then Hatters should go pretty far.
Grand Canyon, aren't they the antelopes? They're out in the first round. The Boilermakers, people don't even know what the heck they are.
Still wondering if that's a train. I still need to know.
Battle of the 10 seeds. Colorado beat Boise State 60-53. The madness officially begins just under 3 hours. NFL news: after the Chargers traded Keenan Allen to the Bears and released Mike Williams, who then signed with the Jets, their wide receiver room is rather thin. Josh Palmer and now second-year pro Quentin Johnston. That's it. So when Dove Kleiman, who, by the way, I'm convinced is not a real human, tweeted their depth chart situation out, Marvin Harrison Jr. liked that tweet. Former Ohio State wide receiver, didn't attend the combine, did not host a pro day. Based off him liking that tweet, wants to go to L.A. Only one giant problem. The Cardinals draft one spot ahead of the Chargers. They also have no wide receivers.
Yeah, I think he probably wants to go to the Chargers, no doubt. But do the Cardinals put that pick up for sale? And would the Vikings or another team be desperate enough to trade up to 4?
Ooh, how about the new Daniel Jeremiah rumor, too, that the Jets might trade up to get to 5 to get Marvin Harrison to pair with Aaron Rodgers.
I'll take that.
The Chargers have a lot of needs too. I don't know.
Here's the thing about the Jets. Yes, getting another wide receiver, I'm sure, is what every Jets fan would want. You need another tackle.
Yeah, no. You're
Really?
thinking long term, Maggie.
No, I'm thinking Aaron Rodgers is 40, and you might want some more offensive line.
It seems like the smart long term play to me. But
I would not want to waste a first-round pick knowing this is an all-in year on a guy that is not going to be in my starting lineup.
That's the
that
thing.
person won't be.
You think Tyron Smith's playing a whole season?
He's not going to start week 1.
Okay, so who? Mekhi Becton?
Yeah, but do you want
to go back through the Jets' depth chart and offensive line?
No, but I'm saying, though, like, Tyron Smith, he's been playing, like, except for a few bad seasons, 13 games a year.
I get it, but
I don't want
there's
my
a reason
first
he's available at 30, what is he, 34?
Yeah, but do you want a rookie in front of Aaron Rodgers?
I want bodies in front of Aaron Rodgers.
I don't know. Rookies can be trouble there.
That's a risk. I want somebody that I know is going to be lining up 50 times a game.
Give me Malik Neighbors flying down the field on that one. Oh, by the way, we're treating the Jets like a fantasy team. With the show
He's drafted at his other ACL. It's not going to matter who's playing wide receiver.
All right, last thing here. We don't have time to get to the JB Bickerstaff stuff, which is good. Basically saying he's had gamblers threaten his family and whatnot. But the one NBA score we haven't touched on from last night. Perloff, do you hear that?
What's that?
Here it comes, the play-in tournament. I feel getting torched. Maybe you can say that. All right. How did it feel getting torched by Grayson Allen last night? 32 points. Suns beat the Sixers 115-102. Devin Booker 1 rebound shy of a triple-double. Sixers now the same record as Miami, who they don't own the tiebreaker against, so they are 8th in the East.
How did it feel? It felt like nothing because when you kick a dead man, the dead man doesn't feel anything. And this Sixers team died a long time ago.
And he's a Pistons fan now, too. Love it.
Wait, I thought that all the cool kids are playing in the play-in tournament. Isn't that the place to be?
Not in the East.
Well, unless Embiid comes back. Then all of a sudden we're talking about something, but this team is... Dude, it's weird. You take out the MVP from a team and they're not good, Pat. You can't get to me.
Oh, you know what? The Knicks have had 3 of their best 4 players out for months, weeks, and they are still rolling right along. I don't want to hear it.
Get him, Boyle.
The last thing anyone wants to hear about.
Den right now.
The last thing anyone wants to hear about right now is the Knicks and the 76ers.
If you want to
and I think I speak for America.
If you want to see profanity, go to Pat Boyle's Twitter feed. What's your handle?
Pat Boyle 44.
Yeah, after Knicks lost, he dropped so many curse words. It is wonderful. You get angrier than EJ.
We have the only update you'll need today. That comes your way next. It's the Maggie and Perloff March Madness bracket. Do not move. More show. Thank you, Pat. In just a minute.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. All right. Well, we have last minute bracket advice for you, at least what we're doing. Quickly, let's update the Maggie and Perloff March Madness bracket of one-hit wonders. Yesterday was the cruising region, so we've got some updates for you. One massive upset, but first we start with the chalk. Take On Me by Aha. Easy win over I Just Died in Your Arms, a song that EJ had never heard of until yesterday. Number 8 seed Breakfast at Tiffany's takes out Don't Worry, Be Happy.
I'm a little surprised by that. I thought Don't Worry, Be Happy was going to be strong, but I think people hate that song.
I love it. The 4th seed, Don't You Forget About Me, Simple Minds takes off If You Could Only See by Tonic. Perloff still protesting that Simple Minds had many hits. They just happen to be in the UK.
Great song, though.
11-seeded Spirit in the Sky upsets Sex and Candy by Marcy Playground. And 14-seeded Video Killed the Radio Star upsets 3-seeded Love Fool by the Cardigans. So even Love Fool appearing in a episode of The Office, not enough to save it from Video Killed the Radio Star.
The problem was, actually, I didn't know that song was Love Fool. When you sang it to me, I'm like, oh, that song.
Yeah, you want to sing it again?
Love me, love me. Oh, my gosh, I lost my voice. Wait, what? Is that the right song?
Yes. Sure.
Fool me, fool me. I don't even know. I don't even know that song.
That's apparent. 7-seeded Afternoon Delight holds off Somebody I Used to Know. And another huge upset, 15-seeded Stacy's Mom takes out 2nd-seeded Walking on Sunshine.
Oh, come on.
I know. I was sad about that one, too.
Stacy's Mom is a fun song, too. Yeah, Walking on Sunshine is iconic. I'm very surprised.
Yep. So there you go. All the Zach Wilson fans out there stands. Stacy's Mom is your anthem.
I figured out this bracket. Some songs, you know the song, but you don't know the name of the song. So I think that is the key to advancing. Like Stacy's Mom, it's easy. Oh, like that song. If You Could Only See, you have to sing it to know it.
Yeah. Well, if you ever want, we do this and update this every day at 7:20 Eastern time is when we actually do play the songs. So you can get all those stuck in your head free of charge. Okay. So that's the last thing. NCAA tournament, last minute predictions, Perloff. I would say your bracket hinges on 2 things.
Yeah.
Auburn taking out UConn.
I know. That's my big upset. I find, and I'm actually going to stick with Purdue. I understand. You've been trying to talk me out of Purdue for very good reason. It's hard to trust Matt Painter. I think they've learned some of their lessons and they make the Final Four.
Okay, and your other big one is you making a big bet on Samford.
Oh, heck yeah. Samford over Kansas. Is that a big bet at this point? Because Kansas is obviously has some injury concerns. That is a wild little... If we have Samford and McNeese State in the second round, that would be really fun. What's your big upset?
My big upset is I have New Mexico going to the Elite Eight.
Oh, come on. Oh.
Yeah.
The first round is not a big upset.
No, the Elite Eight.
That's pretty good. Ooh, that'd be fun.
And I have North Carolina winning it all, which is an unpopular 1 seed. It's still a 1 seed, but it's unpopular.
I think you would win a lot of brackets with that if that did happen because everyone's putting UConn to come out of that side.
Okay, if you still want to participate in our bracket, you can do so right now. EJ, can we retweet?
It's been posted.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So you can go to our social media at Maggie and Pearl. That's where you can not only vote on One Hit Wonders, which we released our 4th region today, which was the Turn It Up region. So you can go vote. We also have our Pearl Jam season 3, That's our March Madness bracket. Go in and you can say you beat 2 national radio hosts in a bracket challenge because that will happen.
A lot of people are going to get to say that.
It's another feather in your cap. You can brag about that at the office. Hey, no Maggie and Perloff? Yeah, just beat them in a bracket challenge.
It's tough. We could go chalk and have a better score, but I like that we're taking some risk here.
There we go. This is going to be fun. We will be back tomorrow. Oh, we forgot to tell people what's at stake today. Whoever gets the most first round games correct today, that person becomes king for a day or queen for a day tomorrow on the show, and they get to call the shots over everyone else on the show.
Oh, no.
Ready.
Who's going to be king for a day? Find out tomorrow. Thank you, EJ, Pete, Andrew Kaplan, Pep Boyle. Stay hard.